I hope they can hear. That's good.
We're live, Mr. Chairman.
We are live. Wonderful. All right, we are live from downtown Lake Worth. Tonight is Wednesday, June 16th. It is 6:07, and this is the Historic Resources Preservation Board second regular meeting for the month of June. Can we have the roll call, please?
Judith Fox,
Here.
Bernard Guthrie,
Here.
William Feldkamp,
Here.
Stephen Pickett,
Here.
Jeff Harris,
Here.
Robert Dorenzo.
Here.
You have a full board.
Wonderful. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Staff, will there be any additions or deletions tonight?
One item, but that'll fall under withdrawals and postponements, so we'll just.
Already. Can I have a motion to approve the May 12th minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the June 12th minutes,
Okay, is it
May.
May 12th?
May 12th minutes.
Second. Moved and second, all in favor, aye. All right, now we could have swearing in of staff and applicants. Anyone who thinks he or she may want to speak tonight, please stand.
We have very many people who move over now.
Just get sworn in.
Okay.
Oh,
People on Zoom.
sorry.
Zoom.
So assuming they have their, they can hear us too. We'll just tell. Okay, so Mr. Mueller, if you please unmute yourself and turn on your video. And Mr. Rojas, if you would do the same, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I'm here.
Hello. Thank you for
Yes,
having
I'm
me.
here. Thank you.
Mr. Rojas, please turn on your video as well. You need to get
Turn
sworn
on-
in.
Oh, hold on.
There it
Yes.
is.
Please raise your right hand.
You two on YouTube.
Everybody, do you swear and affirm the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If so, say yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think we have proof of publication. Let's go on to withdrawals and postponements. Mr. Hodges.
So that is going to be item H this evening, which is a COA request for 1130 South Lakeside Drive. We are requesting a continuance to a date certain for next month's meeting, which would be July 14th.
All right, we need a motion on that.
I'd like to make a motion regarding HRPB project number 2000100273, consideration of certificate of appropriateness to be postponed until the July 14th, 2021 meeting.
Second, anyone?
I second that.
Seconded, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Passes. Board disclosures, starting with Mr. Pickett.
And for me,
Any disclosures?
no, none. I have two projects that will be coming up on this board meeting. Item C and item D. I'll make the presentation, but recuse myself from vote.
All right. No disclosures for me.
I'm good. No disclosures.
And Ms. Fox, disclosure.
No, I'm fine.
Alrighty. Then I guess we go right into new business. Item A, new project at 431 North K Street.
All right, so good evening. I'm Abraham Fogel, Preservation Planner for the City of Lakewood Beach, and I'll be presenting item A, which is HRPB project number 21-001-00098. which is a consideration for a COA for the new construction of a plus or minus 2,360 square foot two-family structure at 431 North K Street. The property owner is requesting the new construction of a two-family structure. The subject property is a 50 by 135 parcel containing two platted lots of record on the southwest corner of North K Street and Fifth Avenue North in Lakewood Beach. The property is vacant, located in the single-family and two-family residential zoning district, and retains a future land use designation of medium-density residential. This is the parcel as it sits today vacant. Here we have another view of the vacant parcel taken from the angle of Fifth Avenue North. Here we have the proposed site plan. Again, this is a plus or minus 2,360 square foot two-family structure. The plans were included as attachment C of the board packet. The subject parcel is well suited for this development as it provides the type of development envisioned within the SFTF zoning designation. Site features include wood fences, landscaping, paver patios and walkways, and paver parking pads at the rear of the property. Moving on to our zoning analysis. The proposed new construction is consistent with all site data requirements in the city zoning code. The application as proposed meets the minimum off-street parking requirements and complies with all impermeable surface requirements, building coverage allotments, and required building setbacks. Due to the extensive use of pavers on the site, staff has included a condition of approval that pavers shall have a percolation rate of at least 50%. And this is consistent with our code requirements so that you receive a 50% credit on your impermeable surface coverage. A preliminary landscape plan was also included with this application. Landscaping will be reviewed at permitting for to ensure compliance with LDR section 23.6-1, which are our landscape regulations. Staff has added a condition of approval to adequately screen the rear parking area that on the northwest corner of the site. There'll be additional screening provided, and I'll go over that in more detail once we get to the conditions of approval. Moving on to the proposed elevations, this is a single-story two-family structure that has two distinct facades on North K Street and Fifth Avenue North. It is designed in a wood frame vernacular architectural style. The North K facade features the entrance to unit number 1 with a stoop and gable roof covering with posts. And the Fifth Avenue North facade features the entrance to unit 2, which is smaller, with a stoop and a bracketed shed roof overhang. The structure is designed utilizing concrete block construction, finished with stucco to simulate woodlap siding and board and batten on the exterior walls. And the roof design features gables with dimensional asphalt shingles and bracketed overhanging eaves. A little bit about the fenestration and detailing. It incorporates 6/1 and 3/3 impact single hung windows with historically compatible window trim, sill, and mullion details. And the doors include French doors, glazed doors, and recessed panel doors for each facade. This is the proposed floor plan. As you can see to the right, that is the unit you enter through North K Street. That is the larger unit that contains 3 bedrooms. And to the rear, that is the smaller unit which you access from Fifth Avenue North, which contains 2 bedrooms. The applicant has provided a street sleeve elevation, which is primarily used to ensure that the scale, height, massing, and architectural detailing of the proposed structure is contextually appropriate with the surrounding properties and neighborhood. The proposed building is consistent with the height and width of other single-story buildings surrounding the property and is in harmony with the historic district. Moving on to our historic preservation analysis. All new construction within a historic district shall be visually compatible and will be reviewed to ensure compliance with LDR section 23.5-4. Sorry, K3A. Staff's responses to that analysis were provided on pages 6 to 8 of our report. And to summarize, the proposed building is again consistent with other single-story buildings in the neighborhood. Each facade features a rhythm of solid steel boards with window and door openings that are long, unbroken walls. The building will utilize concrete block construction with simulated stucco that replicates the appearance of overlap siding and board batten. And this is a compatible finish for new construction proposals within our historic districts. And overall, the size, massing, and other visual qualities of the proposed new construction are compatible and in harmony with visually related properties. Part of our historic preservation analysis is also reviewing compliance with our design guidelines. The applicant has chosen the wood frame vernacular style, which is a common style within our historic districts and is also discussed in our design guidelines. The proposed design utilizes regularized window sizes, appropriate material usage, and has a balanced layout. The structure as designed utilizes elements of wood frame vernacular architecture commonly found in early 20th century residential structures throughout Lakewood. Resulting drawings propose a compatible design for the Northeast Lucerne Local Historic District. Staff has recommended several conditions of approval to further ensure visual compatibility. So in conclusion, the proposed application is consistent with the city's LDRs as conditioned, and the structure's design and site plan are generally consistent with the wood frame vernacular architectural style and the city's historic preservation design guidelines. Therefore, staff recommends approval with conditions for the proposed project.
I thank you very much. Is the applicant online?
Yes.
Does the applicant have anything to add to the staff's report?
We're switching them over right now.
Okay.
Mr. Rojas, can you turn off your, thank you.
Okay, yes. Hello, everybody.
Good evening, sir. Did you want to add anything to the staff report?
No, everything is fine. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. You have looked at the conditions of approval and have no problem with them?
Yeah, yes, yeah.
Okay. Questions from the board members? Anyone?
Yes.
I'm just curious about why they're choosing stucco to simulate the lap siding as opposed to using lap siding.
Yeah. Yes, let me answer. This is my second project at the historic district. My first project is ongoing at 711 North L Street. So I basically doing the same stucco, which is more consistent, is more it's stronger. It's stronger the stucco with the simulating the panels. So I like
structure, which is a stronger material.
Okay.
Right, but I mean, how is that actually? How is the stucco actually? How is the stucco created to look like lap siding?
That's
Yeah, I mean, is it when I first read that, I thought it was just a typo and it was a cementitious product, but it's actually stucco it's actually molded to look like lap siding with a thinner top and a heavier bottom overlapping the piece below it.
Yes, yes, it basically beads. There's some plastic beads that we place and we simulate by hand. They smooth it out to make the impression of panels. I have a project at 7-Eleven. You can see that. I don't know, but it has a really good look. People don't believe that it's a stucco. It looks really like panels.
Okay,
Yeah.
Have,
I've seen it around, I think, and it does look fine. It's a
Yeah.
vinyl reglet every 6 inches that they stucco to that line.
okay.
And it looks real. I have one tiny comment. I don't know why I'm big on these brackets, but the brackets should be actually on the corner boards, not set in from the corner boards. So if you make that a little change. Other
Yeah, we can do it.
other questions or from the board members?
I like it.
I have a couple.
Okay.
Just for clarification, when you have the pavers for a 50% percolation rate, it sounded as though he had all of his coverage and percolation even if he went with concrete on the parking, or that would exceed it then.
They did their calculations taking into account the credit. So that's why we're just adding the condition that a permitting will check the specifications to make sure it has that percolation rate.
Now, if pavers are used and filled in, do they maintain that percolation rate after a period of time, or
There's a maintenance component.
Yeah.
there is a maintenance component?
There is for all
Maintain.
semi-pervious surfaces, so he'll have to maintain them.
Okay, and then the only one other thing on that property, because I pass it every day, it's got the only mulberry tree that
I was just gonna say that. I remember when Brian worked for the library, lives 3 doors down, they did that neighborhood thing on the weekend
Yeah.
and planted those trees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I remember, okay, yeah, I remember the tree planting. And I was really surprised to see a mulberry tree because
Yep.
they're very unusual. You don't see them a lot
They
around.
gave them away at one of the tree giveaways
Is that what it
at
was?
City Hall. Yeah.
I was gonna ask if he knows about the tree I'm talking about, if there's any way that could be preserved and kept on the site, that would be great, but.
I don't know, is it still there?
Well,
I
yeah,
didn't see it in the picture.
yeah.
Mr. Rojas, are you planning on retaining those 3 trees?
The trees basically, I run a permit with David McGrew to remove some trees, and the trees are actually there and retaining those trees because I already talked to him about keeping the trees, the gambo limbo and an oak at the front, and also the four palm trees that I have in the middle. So it's already, I already talked to David McGrew about the landscape, and that's why we keep in all these trees. Yes, the trees that are now, those are trees I'm keeping and keep it for the project. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Fox, do you have any comments?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Nice project.
Yeah, nice, simple project, and good luck with it.
I go ahead and move to approve HRPB project number 21-001-000098 with staff recommendations, recommended conditions for the certificate of appropriateness for the new construction of a 2,360 square foot 2-family structure at 431 North K Street, based on the competent substantial evidence and the staff report and pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Beach land development regulations and historic preservation requirements.
Second, okay, seconded by Mr. Dorenzo.
You didn't ask for public?
Oh, I did not ask for public comment. Is there any public comment on this?
We have none that was submitted for this project, no.
Thank you. All right, well then, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Mr. Rojas.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to item B. Single-family structure, 224 North L Street.
Good evening, again, this is Abraham Fogel, Preservation Planner, and I will be presenting item B, which is consideration of a COA for the new construction of a plus or minus 1,554 square foot single-family structure at 224 North L Street. Then the property owner is requesting a COA for the construction of a new single-family home. The property is located on the east side of North L Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue North. The property is located in the medium density multi-family residential and the urban zoning district and retains a future land use designation of high density residential. A little bit of the property history. The single-story, single-family residence at 224 North L Street was constructed circa 1925 in a wood frame vernacular architectural style. Although no architectural drawings of the building are available, we do have property cards and plans displayed on the slide from the 1950s, which describes the structure as being a wood frame construction on a pier and slab foundation, having a gable composition and asphalt shingle roof, wood windows, and 2 porches. A little bit of the project history. The property owner came before the board on October 14, 2020 for a COA for exterior alterations. The application included reconfiguring some original windows and openings to accommodate new impact products and replacing doors. At that meeting, the board continued the request due to concerns related to fire separation on the south side of the structure where the openings were being reconfigured. This portion of the structure encroaches on the required side setback. At the March 3rd, 2021 HRPB meeting, the board reviewed conceptual plans for new construction. The property owner had concerns about the structure's integrity and sought the board's feedback for a new single-family residence. The board recommended vertically oriented windows that are compatible with the historic district and a more simplified roof design. The property owner requested that the city's building official inspect the property to determine if there were unsafe conditions that would warrant a condemnation. On April 19, 2021, the city's building official, Peter Ringel, declared the structure unsafe as it was likely to fully or partially collapse. Pursuant to our historic preservation ordinance, a COA is not required for the demolition of the building in a historic district if it has been condemned by the city. The demolition of the existing structure has not yet taken place and a demolition permit has not been submitted. Here we have some current photos of the property. The next one. And here is a side view. As I mentioned, a demolition permit has not yet been submitted, so we did include a condition of approval that in accordance with the city official's condemnation, the demolition permit will be submitted prior to or concurrently with the construction permit. So the applicant is proposing approval of a plus or minus 1,554 square foot 2-story single-family structure. The plans were included as attachment D of the board packet. The subject parcel is well suited for this project as it is a non-conforming lot of record, 25 feet wide, where our LDRs limit development to a single-family dwelling. Proposed site features include fences, landscaping, paver walkways, and patios in the front yard and the rear of the property. Moving on to our zoning analysis, the proposed new construction is consistent with all site data requirements in the city's zoning code, with the exception of the front yard and permeable surface or land development regulations pursuant to section 23.3-11C5 require the lesser of 900 feet or 75% of the front yard area to remain pervious and landscaped. Although pervious pavers are proposed, which receive a 50% lot coverage credit, it does not supersede the requirement of maintaining 75% of the front yard pervious landscape. Staff has included a condition of approval to address this issue and also a standard condition of approval that all pervious pavers will have a percolation rate of at least 50%. Finally, the landscape plan will be submitted at permitting to review compliance with our landscape regulations. For our elevations, the applicant has proposed two options. We'll start with option one. The front facade features a single-story side-loaded porch with breeze block walls. The structure is designed utilizing concrete block with a smooth stucco exterior finish. The main massing of the structure utilizes a skillion and lean-to roof design, and the fenestration incorporates full view impact turnstile and fixed glass windows, glazed and flush panel doors, and a flush panel garage door with glazing. The side elevations feature window placement and orientation that is somewhat atypical with some of our historic buildings, but it is consistent with this contemporary iteration of a mid-century modern building in regards to window placement and fenestration. And overall, it avoids long expanses of blank facade. Here we have renderings of option one. The main difference between these two options is the roof pitch. With this version, the roof for the shed and over the main massing of the structure has a 1:12 pitch, and it utilizes a metal roof. And moving on to option two, it is largely the same, but it goes down to a pitch that's about 1/4 to 12, which is, we would call that almost a flat roof or a low slope roof. And due to that low slope, it will go to some type of rubber membrane or modified bitumen roof material. It is staff's analysis that both of these options are compatible however, option two seems more in line with the board's feedback that was given at the concept plan.
That's the one with the flatter roof?
Yes.
Yeah.
Here we have another view. Again, from perspective, they're gonna look fairly similar. The applicant did submit some additional information on the detailing. Again, the fenestration will incorporate full view, impact, turnstile, and fixed glass windows, glazed and flush panel doors. And here we have a brochure image of that flush panel garage door with glazing.
And I will just add that the neighbor did register as an affected party. I think she was trying to give some public, find a vehicle for public comment. She and the applicant had been in discussions, and I think she just got a little worried with it coming to hearing, and she really wanted the front door to face forward, and was concerned about the dark color of the thing, because it's a kind of like a narrow area, and that's very close to her house. So she felt like the design was a little unfriendly.
We have her
Oh,
public
I'm
comment
sorry.
will be read into the record.
Are we allowed to ask?
You're finished now or?
Just a little bit more almost.
Okay.
Okay, so if you go to the floor plan. Here we have the floor plan. The property owner is here with us, so if he wants to kind of walk us through after I'm done with the layout and everything, to do that, go on to the next slide. He has submitted a streetscape elevation, which again is very helpful to understand height and massing. I would like to note that to the left, that project has not been constructed yet, but it has been approved by the board. We're finalizing the minor site plan approval, and their next step would be submitting for permits. So as we see this streetscape elevation, although that side of the street predominantly has one-story structures, when you move across the street, you have the townhomes, and we also see a two-story development that will be coming soon.
Can I ask a quick question while they have this elevation up?
Yes.
The neighbor that is going to comment is the one on the right-hand side?
On the left.
On the left.
230 North L.
That's
She's a 222.
Yeah, it's
It's
the neighbor to
We're
the,
talking about what's being
Yeah.
constructed. The neighbor that's providing public comment is 222.
Okay, so that,
to the right.
The mission structure.
because from what the comment I heard you say was that the front door of the new structure would be opening up toward hers. But I think that the front door is on
It
the,
is on the other side.
It was on the other side. She wanted the front door to face the street,
as opposed to away from her.
as opposed to away from her and away from the street.
Okay,
She
We'll read.
will get to
Okay,
that.
all right.
She wrote a nice letter.
Okay, we like her.
We'll get to this in a minute. Can you complete your?
I apologize.
So again, for our historic preservation analysis, we review for compliance with LDR section 23.5-4Q3A. That full analysis is provided on pages 7 to 10 of the staff report. All the construction needs to be visually compatible with our historic district. Our code does allow for iterations that are either traditional or contemporary. This one's leaning on the contemporary side, but it does utilize elements of mid-century architecture. Overall, it's consistent with 2-story buildings in the area. The windows and exterior finishes are consistent with the style that was chosen. Common for contemporary construction in the historic districts. Again, it's mostly contemporary, but we're seeing elements for mid-century modern, so we can do some analysis based on our design guidelines. And we've included as attachment A with the packet that section of our design guidelines, particularly the roof design, that roof shape, the corner windows, and the breeze block walls are consistent with this architectural style. In conclusion, the proposed application is consistent with the city's land development regulations as conditioned, and the structure's design and site plan are consistent with contemporary architectural style and mid-century elements outlined in the city's design guidelines. The report staff recommends approval with conditions to allow construction of a new plus or minus 1,554 square foot single family.
Nice.
And that concludes your
That-
presentation.
That was my presentation. The property owner is here with us tonight, and we also have the conditions of approval, but.
Yeah. Would the owner want to come forward? If you have anything additional to say, legally, you have up to 10 minutes. You don't need that probably, but
It will be
Name and address.
name and address, yes, please.
name and address. My name's Garrett Scheffler. I reside at 7943 Manor Forest Boulevard in Boynton Beach. But I'm here for 224 North L Street, which will be my primary residence upon completion. I just want to say good evening, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thank you for having me again this evening. I appreciate your time and consideration. I'm happy to report this evening that I am able to meet all the conditions of approval that Abraham has outlined in his review letter. After the concept review at the March board meeting, I decided that this home was a best fit for mid-century modern design vernacular, and tonight I'm happy to present this revised design, which is inspired by your feedback and helpful suggestions from Mr. Fogel and Mr. Hodges. As you see, the windows have been streamlined by reducing the number of different sizes, incorporating more units of similar sizes, different areas around the building. More openings were added to the south elevation as requested, balancing out the two longer faces of the building. Additionally, those street-facing windows were aligned vertically to provide a more cohesive style, and the corner window assemblies like these on the front facade are very popular in mid-century modern style. So the two different roof options, based on your comments from the concept review, I have diligently explored other roof options, including pitch and mount materials, and even changing some of the wall layouts of the first floor. Option one consists of the similar style roof to that original concept, but this roof is a 1 inch per foot slope as opposed to the original 3 inch per foot slope. after much consideration, I feel that this reduced roof pitch in the combined gable and shed style is much more appealing than the original concept. With the addition of mid-century modern window layouts and breeze block elements, I think that you'll find that this building fits well in the mid-century design vernacular. So I'm here for primarily asking for approval for option one. However, in the case we came up with the flattened roof as well, and I think maybe we bounce back and forth between the two, and that will help kind of give a better view of how those two look different. So just in conclusion, you want to talk about it first? In conclusion, when I purchased this property in January of 2020, it was my intention to do a 6-month renovation project to that old wood house. And almost 18 months later, I found myself in a very different position, both from a development and financial standpoint, as we all do some way in this post-pandemic life right now. I'm very excited about the opportunity of this new construction, but please understand that I do work full-time and make monthly payments on this property in addition to student loans and other alternative living expenses. A continuance today would only set me back further. So I respectfully request that you are clear and deliberate with any comments you have. My main intention is to start constructing the home in which I plan to start a family. And I, of course, want to do what is best for the city of Lake Worth. And I hope you will accept my project as a reasonable and willing addition to the community. And I hope you appreciate my mid-century modern home design.
Here. Well, thank you very much for that presentation. We now will go into questions from board members. Well, let me start on the right.
So number one, you would prefer your door on the side?
Yeah, that's the original design of it. I just, found out from Abraham yesterday that, they were talking about moving that door to the front. It does tighten up. It's a very narrow house. And
Right.
If you move the front door to say the very front, directly under the front porch there, then it does create kind of a uncomfortable flow through the room of entry traffic. I mean, that living room is it's less than 11 feet deep, which is hardly enough room for a coffee table. And thankfully there are no tube TVs anymore, so we can make this possible. But so that's the reason for the, it's not really from a security or,
It's for a flow.
being reclusive purpose at all.
I don't know.
And I think that, the breeze block the large opening, the breeze block there, hopefully, exposes the door and shows it to the street. So it's not difficult to get into. Another option that we could explore, thinking about it, is making the exterior hallway, so to speak, about half the size and having a door face inward there. But it would kind of create a strange wall pop out to the left of the kitchen cabinet. And since the setback requirements for 1 story, we would basically just enclose that is one idea.
What do you think?
All right. Well, no, I have no problem with the door where it is at all. I think maybe the next door neighbor misconstrued the drawings. Let's go on to no comments.
No comments. Well, other than I support the door where it is.
Yeah.
I like the door where it is too. The only question I had, they made a difference between the two roof pitches. The 1 and 12 would have a metal roof.
Yes.
Is that, I've trying to figure out that's something that's used.
That's so based on what I've read from material suppliers, that metal roofs can go down to a 1 inch over foot, a 1 foot.
Would it be a standing seam maybe?
Yeah, it might be a standing seam, or you have to lay down the right sealant on top, on the.
And with that little pitch, I don't even know if you're gonna be able to see it from the street. I'm just saying, it's not a visual thing. It's
No,
Yeah, you would see it on the ends of the roof, maybe on
Yeah.
both sides, if it were.
Yeah.
I think maybe one of Abraham's conditions was a 1-inch rise on the 1-inch maximum rise on the roof. Yeah, so that might make it hard to do a standing seam, a true standing seam. So that's something that we'll have to look at if based on the roofer's suggestions, if this is the wrong choice of material for that reason, then we can, look at.
Would you consider going back to the, rubberized or bitumen, for the 1 and 12 pitch?
Yeah.
It's very, very shallow for metal. That's why I was thinking to build up with something in a storm or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not into roofing, but I was just wondering about the difference between the two styles, if there was a particular reason, one over the other.
Not necessarily. Originally I was thinking about a metal roof. I'm not particularly.
Am I mistaken? The breeze block was not part of this project the first time.
That's
Okay,
correct.
and then I think there was more of a slope on that you all thought.
Yeah, but that looks
fine.
Mr. Pickett, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the door being where it is. I actually like the option one of the roof a little bit more. It gives a little bit more character. But overall, I'm project.
Thank you.
Ms. Fox? Any comments? Ms. Fox,
Still muted.
you were muted. We can't hear you.
We could have all nodded and went, yeah.
Chairman,
Yes,
if I may make one comment about the roof. Typically you can use a metal roof. You have to put, basically at that point, the waterproofing is all provided by the membrane below, by whatever substrate it is. However, I think the idea of using a metal roof here makes sense if you can afford it. And if the manufacturer will allow that low a standing seam on the roof, because you're going to be looking at it from the upper level. And it would be much more attractive for you as the homeowner to be looking at that kind of a surface rather than looking at a rubber membrane. So I would suggest that I would certainly support a metal roof.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the reasons I like the metal roof as well.
I've got 6 little comments here, none of them terrible.
Okay.
First, start off with, I'm very happy to see this metamorphosis from the first time we saw you. I think you've done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Alrighty, are you retaining the tree in the front?
The sea grape tree, yes,
Large tree.
will be retained as well as the cactus
Okay.
up front. Yeah.
This is none of my business, but I would suggest that you go to an 8-foot entry door. You have a 6'8", and you've got a 10-foot ceiling, I think, there on the first floor.
Yes.
So just for proportion, you'd be better off with that.
Agreed.
And at the same time, you might want to look at the head heights of your windows. Again, with a 10-foot ceiling, you don't want to feel like you're constrained in your view. None of my business. The side windows are fixed or they are casements?
So I'm evaluating these tilt turn style windows, which they're depicted in this picture on the top left. So they open inward. And then if you turn the handle the other direction, they tilt from the top. There are a variety of them around the property. If you go to the elevations.
Very expensive.
Yeah, we're just evaluating if the alternative would be casement windows. And in casement and fixed windows. So in this top elevation, a few of them along the back there, it's about half of them are fixed and half of them are operable.
Okay.
The garage ones being fixed and the bathroom ones upstairs being operable. And then on the lower elevation, kind of most of those are fixed. It's a little bit hard to see from on the screen here, but on the drawings, you can tell which one's fixed and which one's operable by the kind of the thickness of the frame.
Okay. Next item, if you've had 2 issues that I very much like, corner windows and breeze block. If you're going to do, and again, this is up to you, if you're going to do a corner window, you might want to, instead of putting the paint on that corner, you might want to make the window, whatever the window color is, go around the corner. And in addition, you might want to keep the window back as far as you can from the surface so that that notch is more visible.
So in other words, on the left side, in the photo, that dark line right there,
Yeah,
continue it with white or
I
silver.
think
whatever
you
the
would want to
window.
do it in white or silver.
Yeah, this is really just a
Render.
example of my lack rendering skills. Yeah, the plan is to include the correct structural mullions for the corner.
Yeah.
Those,
Okay, quick question. You are in fact 9 feet above sea level on L Street. You're way inland, aren't you?
Yeah, it's in B. I think it's in B or C.
Okay.
It's not in the floodplain.
Next question is, did you have a particular reason you wanted that entrance walkway to be centered rather than centered on the front door section?
I'm not sure. I understand the question.
The walkway appears to be centered on the site as opposed to being centered on that little porch opening to the front door.
Oh, yeah. That's the existing walkway.
Oh,
I think that based on Abraham's calculation of the front yard, we're gonna have to reconsider how we're doing that anyway.
okay.
What do you think?
Like this guy.
Yeah, I would have you move it over so you have a straight shot at the front door. It's a little bit less impervious and so.
Yeah.
And then the little front way is centered, yeah. And then my last comment was the same thing that Mr. Harris said. I think EPDM membranes come in 16-foot widths. So if you wanted to just buy a roll of EPDM and roll it down over the roof, you should be in good shape.
Yeah.
Okay, comments from neighbors, from the public.
Okay, I have the comment that they spoke about earlier. And it starts off, they want to thank you in advance to Historic Preservation, Historic Resources Preservation Board and the Office of Community Sustainability, Lake Worth Beach, particularly to Aaron Sika and Abraham Fogel. It is a credit to these individuals and to Garrett Scheffler for collaborating to create a distinctive mid-century modern style property at 224 North L in the North Lucerne Historic District. The 200 block of North L has a significant mix of multi and single family homes. And I live at 222 North L Street in a Mission Revival home directly to the south of the proposed home. I credit Mr. Scheffler for coordinating with the city to find a distinctive but contemporary style. The adjustments from the original set of concept drawings show great appreciation to mid-century refinements, especially with respect to the view of the front from the west. Especially with respect to the view of the front from the street. The breeze blocks and matching top and bottom windows showcase that refinement. The narrow lot size of 25 feet left little option but to build vertically. The pitched shed roof may help the design look less like stacked container boxes and more mid-century. I hope the board agrees that the roof will help set the style of the home. A pitched roof is also a mid-century modern characteristic and of consideration with one of the two proposals. I value the opinion of the board in finding suitable pitch, material, and color recommendations. I would seek the guidance of the board with respect to the black metal roof and any adverse impact it might have with regard to heat. Heat may be a factor if the proposed plans for 230 North L show considerable metal and asphalt. I also appreciate the off-road parking as we currently have very little road parking with the 11-unit townhouses on the west side of the block. Many of the Coconut Walk townhouses converted their garages into gyms, offices, and storage units, leaving no room for cars. Once the apartments on the 230 North L Street lot are built, further stress parking will be a reality. It's thoughtful of Mr. Scheffler to have a garage and parking space for his and his guests' vehicles. I'm grateful this process has already produced refinements that will enhance the block and offer Garrett a beautiful home. As one of only two-story 25-foot lot proposals, it took teamwork. Final details like the location of the air conditioning unit should be vetted in the ongoing process. It's a pleasure to see such a gorgeous home come together. Thanks to Abraham Fogel for aiding my review of the plans and Aaron Cedar for answering my initial request as a next door neighbor to this plan. I'm happy that the city of Lake Worth Beach has their service and dedication. Thank you to the board, city, Garrett, and good luck to all tonight. Oh, I'm sorry. And this is from Corey Metzler, 222 North L Street, Lake Worth Beach.
Okay, thank you very much. And that's the only public comment we have. All right, then you can have your seats and we will do our executive session. I'm guessing that the only main issue is the roof pitch. Am I correct?
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with the, did I hear, what colors, if it's gonna be metal roof, is it, do we specify that it's gotta be the silver or?
Well, if it is a metal roof, it will need to be metal.
No finish.
What's that term they use?
Mill
finish.
Mill finish.
So, what I have in red here is slightly modified from your staff report. Number 13, based on the public comment. This is a given, but we're just reiterating that the mechanical equipment will be minimum setbacks and shall be screened. 14 is where we're asking the board to select option 1 or 2. With option 1, discussing the visual compatibility as it's proposed in black. So deciding if that's appropriate for the style or if you want to require mill finish. For option 2, we typically don't regulate the color of modified bitumen or rubber roofs. We just always make a recommendation that if available, using a lighter color for energy conservation. And 15 was, that condition was already there, but it just got renumbered.
Right.
I added one in the middle.
I mean, with such a low pitch, like we were saying, with the 6 units going in on one side, how are you gonna see this roof anyway?
Only the shed roof.
Yeah, you're only gonna,
You'll see that, but that's.
and that's gonna be black.
It was just an original idea.
Okay, so you
Are we allowed to have black roofs? I know we had a problem with colors on metal roofs.
yeah, I think that if it is a metal roof, it would need to be mill finish. That black is
Oh,
not permitted.
Okay.
All right, and
Hold on,
yeah,
just before we get off the subject, I mean, the black roof that we asked them to go see if they could coat, because basically they pulled a permit for a mill finish roof and it was just not approved. Is it?
I think it was delivered wrong, wasn't it?
Was that it?
Yeah, I think the staff recommended a mill finish and it came out with that color on it, with that black or whatever the color is.
So they actually went ahead and removed that. They put a mill finish roof in.
oh.
Oh, okay.
So that got resolved.
All
All
right,
right, so mute point. So now we're back to
so now we're back to, should we?
this guy's house. Yeah.
Right.
Black.
I mean, can we go back to just real quick to the picture of the,
If I may, I think,
I mean, what are you gonna see?
right, we want one where you can actually see it a little bit more.
I'm only speaking of somebody else saying, will you approve?
No, and I understand.
So why can't I have a black roof?
But we're also looking at I don't know.
It is new construction.
Yeah,
And it is considered, is that considered compatible?
So I think in our other conversation, we're talking about the board allowed the metal roofing in lieu of a metal shingle, which always had a natural finish.
right.
In this situation, you're kind of weighing, okay, do I want it to be consistent with that, which is usually historic structures? Or do I also want to see it perhaps for this contemporary style that is, a color that's utilized, and maybe then you can find that it's compatible. So you're weighing kind of compatibility with the historic structures and compatibility with the style itself.
Compatibility with the contemporary style as opposed to compatibility with mid-century modern.
And you may find that maybe a mill works for both or not, but.
I mean,
does anyone remember what roofing will go on to the 6 units next door?
It's a flat roof.
Yeah.
Parapet, it doesn't even have a
parapet on it.
a small parapet.
But I couldn't tell you what it is. I'm not sure.
I mean, he may get built and decide a whole different color scheme for the property.
Do you have a problem with putting mill finish on?
No, I don't.
I mean, honestly, I would suggest it because if you put a dark finish roof on or dark coating on the metal roof, it's gonna bake or melt, literally melt.
Fade after 2 years.
So,
I was just gonna say, there's an energy bill, a monthly energy bill.
Yeah.
That's gonna go up. with
I don't care how much insulation, but
All right, so which roof is, are we going to leave it to the applicant to decide on the roof, or are we going to weigh in on it?
I believe the applicant suggested his preference for the pitched roof, which is 1 in 12.
1 in 12.
And I don't have any problem with that. And I would suggest that we, specify that is the board's preference as well.
All right.
In the
Is
condition,
this leading us into the color of roofs again, as we were talking about
no,
the difference between the colors of the roofs and the colors of the houses?
No.
Okay.
We have no say in the color of the house, but we do have say in the color of the roof because of the material of the roof.
right.
Okay.
If it is a metal roof. If it were a
shingles.
shingle roof, then we would have no right to talk about color. We could certainly imply that a light colored roof is better.
you can have black shingles, but you can't have black metal on it.
Just so I'm clear though, you would prefer to have option 2, is that right?
Option 1.
Option 1.
Which is the pitch. 1 in 12.
I think, and maybe if you don't want to take a position as an architectural style, you can certainly take a position from a code perspective. Our department is the Department of Community Sustainability, and having a black roof is going to dramatically increase his energy cost. So maybe if you didn't want to limit a dark, to just say that you recommend a lighter colored roof, because that's going to have a real impact to his monthly bill.
He was cool with the mill finish.
He already said he doesn't have.
Yeah.
On the mill
Yeah,
finish.
so
He
I'm
just wants to
I'm
build a
trying to give you
house.
all like a point, you seem to be
Yeah.
meandering a little, so it's like.
Or I'm open to any material suggestions that you feel would be the best architectural fit.
Mhm.
And it's the reason I didn't propose rubber roof on that design is because it seemed to me that rubber roofs were not particularly used with cable design. Cable.
This is just so shallow
To say
that
that-
honestly, you're gonna have to put some kind of a rubber membrane below whatever you put on this roof. So personally, I mean, I would say, why even make it put a metal roof on?
You don't have to say anything.
My preference would be a white EPDM or similar rubber membrane with the flatter version, and just be content with the white surface and forget about the metal.
And we split the baby here because the only thing that you are gonna see from the upstairs is the shed roof. And if you wanted a little
Metal there.
metal on that and then use, because like Mr. Harris said, if you put a membrane up on the roof, you don't even have to spend the expense on putting the metal on top of it.
Which is
It's not gonna be seen by anybody. So,
And honestly, if you were to put a black metal roof on the lower level, if we're gonna allow that, that has no energy impact at all because that's all exterior space, right?
Yeah.
So, do any of these have to do with the pitch of the roof, 1 through 7?
Number 1, 14.1.
would be the one you would modify if you want to select one of the options, and that's where you can also there, or as a separate one, discuss the roof finish.
I'm happy to leave it up to the applicant.
Yeah, I agree.
I think when you meet with the roofing contractor or the guys can build your house, I think products are gonna, he may have a suggestion also.
So if we are going to approve this, we'll remove condition number 14.
And you would just have to state for the record which option you're approving this evening. Option 1, it seems like there's consensus. So you just say, when you make your motion, you're making your motion to approve option 1.
Well, are we?
I thought we were leaving it
I
up.
thought we were leaving that up to the,
Oh, you want to leave both the options, the configurations and the roof material. I'm
yes.
sorry.
Yeah, because, you know, when it gets closer to construction, it might,
I'm
might.
good. I was here.
Bill
till
walked
midnight
his
last
dog
night.
up
I'm
the
just
street.
slow.
Excuse me.
All right,
No
does someone,
judgment, this is slowness.
does someone want to start a motion here? Perhaps Mr. Pickett?
Yeah, I move to approve HRB project number 21-001-00137 with staff recommended conditions, removing condition 14 for the certificate of appropriateness for the new construction of a 1,554 square foot single family structure at 224 North L Street, based on the competent substantial evidence in the staff report and pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Beach land development regulations and historic preservation requirements.
Second.
Second by Mr. Guthrie. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? We need to show that this number 14 is in the new numbering system, which we do not have in our packet. On that, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Build that house.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's gonna be, that whole camp can be really
It'll
interesting.
be an awesome house.
Thank you for coming to the earlier versions and going through this. Process.
Hey, get over here. Lock the door, Sheriff.
All righty, let's move on to the next item, which is what, 312
Yeah.
12th Avenue North?
Yes.
312 12th Avenue North. The architect is somebody called GBH Architecture.
Great.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening. For the record, this is Jordan Hodges, Senior Preservation Coordinator for the City of Lake Worth Beach. And I'll be presenting item D for you tonight, which is a consideration of a COA for the construction of a plus or minus 817 square foot addition and exterior alterations for a single family residence at 312 12th Avenue North. The property owner is Kane Development, and again, this is a corner lot located on 12th Avenue North and North Federal Highway. This property is located in the mixed-use Federal Highway zoning district, but it is a single-family residence with no intended change of use. A little bit of property file documentation. There were originally two structures on the parcel built between 1925 and 38. And then also in 1938, an integral garage was added to the existing structure, that rear structure, which we still have today fronting 12th Avenue North. But the front building ended up being demolished due to some fire damage. And then in 76, there was a major renovation to that rear building, which included removal of the garage, roof replacement, window replacement, and interior renovations and reconfiguring of the floor plan. So the building has been substantially altered over the years and maintains a relatively low degree of historic integrity. This is that structure from the Federal and 12th Avenue intersection. As you can see there, it's kind of pushed all the way to the back of the lot. This is from the east looking at it. That is the front and the side. You can see the alley there right behind it. And this is the front of the structure currently. Again, it's a non-contributing building.
That's for sure.
I don't know what happened here.
Sorry, it just stopped showing.
It just stopped moving.
Must be the weather.
It was
Still raining. Just get a brownout, blackout. Power goes out, we're stuck in city.
So this is the proposed site plan. The parcel is a 60 by 135 platted lot of record. If you look at the site plan, you can see the kind of diagonal filled portion. That is going to be the addition. The speckled areas on the south and west sides, those are going to be new open porches. But the proposed addition and, but it is compliant with all site data requirements in the city zoning code. The application complies with all impermeable surface, building lot coverage, FAR, and all of your setbacks. And the proposed parking is through a long tandem driveway right there off the alley, or not off the alley, but adjacent to the alley. So the proposal also requests to replace all of the existing aluminum siding with new cementitious lap siding and to replace the 1970s metal single hung windows with new impact single hungs. The window and door surrounds are also proposed to be replaced with a new cementitious trim and sill. Per the design guidelines, these alterations could be approved administratively by staff with pertinent conditions of approval. The request also proposes to install a new porch over an existing slab at the current entry on the south elevation. And the design of the porch is pretty simple, just supported by 3 columns. Here you can also see the proposed addition, which is kind of laid out in a cross gable configuration. The addition is relatively simple in massing and features a broad front porch fronting North Federal Highway as well. But the applicant is proposing 2 different siding treatments for the addition. This one is a proposed board and batten. Again, the existing building will be done with a new cementitious lap and then a board and batten for the addition portion. And you can see the new impact windows. It's just a 2-over-1 design. These are a few angled shots of those buildings and then some of the contextual streetscape around it. So there's also a siding option B. Again, that would be to use the lap siding on the existing building and then to do kind of a smooth but scored stucco pattern on the addition. Yeah, that's fine. So alterations and additions that are visible, staff has provided answers for the general criteria on granting COAs on pages 5 through 6 of the staff report. And for non-contributing buildings, there are only 2 additional criteria for additions, basically dealing with what's visible and the general massing. But alterations and additions that are visible from a street for non-contributing buildings shall be reviewed only for their compliance with the LBRs and whether the addition or alteration's height, mass, and orientation to a public street are compatible with neighboring buildings in the district, and whether major changes to a building include design and materials compatible with the district as a whole, and maintaining an overall integrity of architectural style for the building. So in order to kind of maintain that overall integrity for the architectural style, staff is recommending siding option A, as the board and batten is a compatible siding material for frame buildings. Option B, which is the proposed scored stucco, doesn't really maintain that styling around the building. Go next. And here again, you can see options A and B. A is going to be the board and batten kind of look to it, and then option B is going to be that smooth scored stucco. Yeah.
Is one considered more maintenance friendly than the other?
I mean, they're both pretty flush. There's not a whole lot of reveal to either of them.
Board and batten, that's not a.
Well, I mean, it does have a protruding piece to it, but I mean, if you're thinking about how things usually get dirty, it's when things stick out at a horizontal, not really a vertical. You can talk to the architect about that.
Is the board and batten a concrete composite or wood board and batten?
Was it composite or yeah, all cementitious.
That's what I thought you said. I just wanted you to say cementitious again.
Okay, for conclusion, it is generally consistent with the LDRs and the design guidelines. We are recommending approval with conditions. You can go ahead and start with the applicant, or we can get into the conditions of approval.
Let's go through the conditions.
Okay. So number one, windows and doors, wood clad, aluminum, vinyl, or fiberglass. Review of permitting, I believe aluminum are proposed. Number two is to recess the windows and provide a historically compatible trim and sill detail. Number three is, our standard divided light pattern or divided light profiles. Number four is our glazing standard. Number five is going to be that the windows on the original building are replaced in their existing openings unless otherwise approved by the HRPB. I don't think that those are really proposed to be moved around a lot. Next page, Aaron. Then our typical glazed door, glazed door glazing or door glazing is a little bit different than our window glazing, but still, if you're using a low E, it's a 70% BLT. Number seven is our lap reveal, which is typically a 6 to 7 inch. Number eight is that siding materials, or we are recommending approval for the board and batten option. Number nine is the dimensional asphalt shingle roof. And again, we're recommending the light gray for white or light gray. Number 10 are just 10 and 11 are just recommendations. Flip to the next one, Aaron. Number 10 is that two window type A's be added to that north federal front facade. As it is now, it's just the two doors on the on that facade, which is not too, we don't see a lot of that. So it's just something to break up that facade. But again, that's just a recommendation. And then number 11 is to just use a more consistent divided light pattern. Again, it's just a recommendation. Right now, it's just a 2/1 proposed in every opening, but typically when we saw that and the windows would change width or change height, those light sizes would stay proportioned. So maybe some of the windows would be a 2 light, some would be a 3, some would be a 4.
You saying that those would be more,
That'd be cool.
like 3/1?
So some of them would be a 2/1. If it got wider proportionally, it would jump to a 3/1.
The one we were just looking, the west, I guess it's the west elevation. Yeah, those you would consider going to, or you would recommend going to 3/1?
So window type A would move to a 3. So we're recommending that window size, except it would jump to a 3/1 versus the 2.
That would look cool.
Kind of like that idea.
Only muttons and
All
mountains.
right, does the applicant's architect have any thing to add to the staff report?
Yes, sir.
Uh-oh.
Jeffrey Harris, and for the record, the name of my firm is Jeffrey B. Harris Architect, not GBH Architecture. And also, I believe that there's a mistake when you introduced the project owner. I think you got confused with the next project that I'm
Correct.
presenting. Prior to the 30-story building, I'll be presenting, which is directly on the beach in place of the casino. But that's upcoming.
Oh, it's pointed ears. I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Yes,
That's okay. Now, I just make sure the owners are correct.
that owner's cool.
The operative 2 words for this project are, in fact, as what Jordan said, pretty simple.
Yeah.
So the client has no problems with any of these conditions, with the exception of one thing. The reason we're asking for a stucco finish as an alternate is that given the inflation right now, stucco probably will be a less expensive option in the future. And we would like that option just in case prices go completely crazy and everything else gets out of hand. Personally, I prefer the stucco because I think that this building, given the fact that it's non-contributing, is it's actually calling for something different on the site at this point. It doesn't really need to emulate any other type of building in that neighborhood. It's a very eclectic area. It's right on the corner of Federal and 12th. And so as such, it's sort of it's just there as it stands. There are many buildings around it. They're very, very eclectic. The one immediately to the east of it on the same side of the street is a crazy looking stucco thing with arches and all sorts of.
Would staff consider what they're doing on like the first case that came in front of us where they did a board look stucco?
Say it again.
You could do the board and batten out of stucco. I don't think I'd do a cementitious lap and then a stucco lap.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I don't really like that product.
He doesn't like it.
I'm not wild about that. However, Mr. Feldkamp did bring up a point that I think is very valid, and that is that really the substrate for stucco is block.
Yeah.
And as such, conversely, the substrate for board and batten or for wood siding is not really block, because you add a layer of construction to it that's actually irrelevant. Having said that, the owner really does like the cementitious board and batten, and she would prefer to put that on if she can. And I really don't see it getting the price is getting that high, but I would like to be able to use the stucco option if possible. Stucco is very simple, again, pretty simple. It just has a reveal at the head height of the window and the door. And then it has vertical control joints that will break the panel down into reasonable sizes for shrinkage, which I can't believe, honestly, that people don't do that more down here. Because stucco is a very permeable material, and it has shrinkage and contraction and expansion all the time, but we hardly ever see actual control joints. So having said that, that's the only thing I would like the board to consider regarding the two sidings. The second thing is, if we do go to stucco, I would like to represent it as a mass wall. That is, I'd prefer to pull the windows in significantly on that portion of the addition, because we have basically a 10-inch thick wall with the stucco and the furring on the inside. So we prefer to bring the windows in to create a deeper shadow line at all those openings, which I think would be a lot more attractive and also a lot more reflective of the type of construction that we're using, because we have the depth to provide the shadow lines. Item number 8, that concerns that. And item number 2, again, we have no problem with that. I think it was number 2, maybe it's number 4. Yeah, it's number 2. We have no problem with it either way, depending on the material used. The windows on for item number 10, I really don't want to do that. I think, first of all, they don't really work with the plan of the building. It's a very small house. The area on the left side of those French doors is actually the master bedroom. It already has a window up high over where the only location that the bed can really go. And as it opens right to the porch, it basically doesn't give the bedroom a lot of privacy. It just creates less space where you can hang art.
How wide is that, Chef?
My eyes are horrible. I don't have.
12? Can you guys see how
I
wide?
see. So one set of French doors is into that room on the,
Into the master bedroom.
I see.
and then the other one is over. What is that?
That's sort of a kitchen family.
12.6. Kitchen.
So 12.6 is half the space. Yeah, that sounds right. It's about 12 feet, 6 inches deep. So anyhow, my point being that I don't personally believe that we need flanking windows on this. I think there'll be plenty of light, and I think the doors will read as a more substantial piece of the architecture if they don't have windows working against them on either side. Finally, number 11, I would prefer to keep it as a 2/1 if possible, because again, I just think, I don't think we need in this particular case to emulate something that really is not anywhere around that area. However, if the board decides that they want to use a large number of mutton bars, I will, obviously support that.
I have some questions. If we go in the board and batten direction, what's it made out of? It is this stucco with a little.
We would use
2x2s every.
Yeah, we would use. The reason I say cementitious is because there are other companies that make this stuff, but we would use basically a hardy panel, 4x8 panel.
Yeah, it's like a
cut to the right height, 4x10 panel cut to the right height. And then wherever the joints are, that would be essentially a starting point for the battens. And the battens would be on an equal module for 4 feet. So roughly, I think they're 12 inches apart on this. And they would be done out of another cementitious product that Hardy or other manufacturers make. And they just get attached directly to the, right through the seams, obviously. Just
why would you use hardy board instead of just doing a flat stucco with 2x2s or 3x3s?
Put hardy board against the.
Well,
wouldn't even bother with it.
Why would you bother with hardy board? It's a concrete block construction, and stucco would be the proper finish for it.
Right. However, that once we start to attach the battens properly, we're going to be punching holes in the stucco consistently. So I really don't want to do that for waterproofing.
Okay. Questions from other members?
What would be the finish on the stucco?
Smooth finish. It would be a very contemporary finish, just a contemporary little box on the end of this old building.
The only question that I had goes to the west elevation where the posts on the porch do not coincide with the French doors. And that's, they,
Right,
they're
and that's,
equally spaced out, but there seems to be a little, yeah, it's an offset to there. And I don't know if that was,
yeah, that's intentional.
okay. Or unavoidable.
Sorry, again, my eyes are awful, so I have to look at this. But,
Can you increase that west elevation?
We're talking option A, right?
Go to the, where you had the pitch on the window.
Oh.
There you go. So the one post is kind of,
right, and actually, there's something, I think that's incorrect. Because, no, it probably isn't, because I don't think it's exactly equal.
Yeah,
I think the bays are exactly equal for the deck, but the plan is not, it does not orient orthogonally with the columns. And I will admit that I don't necessarily think that symmetry is the greatest thing all the time. I don't know if you know an architect called Robert Venturi, but he did a number of projects where the initial layer is totally different than the back layer because they're each operating under different constraints. I don't find that disturbing at all because I think it just represents reality. But
That we're all.
like you said, the different constraints, the posts are equidistant for each other. And,
right, for structural reasons.
and then the door, I just happened to notice it and I was wanted to
Right.
hear your thoughts on that.
It doesn't really throw me off either, but if you look at the plan view, they're not spaced like that. They're actually spaced so that the doors.
Yeah,
are there.
so I think that it must be drawn incorrectly. Maybe I revised it after the fact, but if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. It should be like the plan. The elevation should be like the plan. I can't believe I didn't put that up. That satisfies that condition.
I have a couple of questions. If you were to go to the smooth stucco version B, I'm intrigued by the concept of really deeply recessed windows. And if I can have a digression for a second, in many of your approvals, you say the glass setback at least 2 inches or so from the surface. 2 inches is not enough. In my mind, what we're trying to do is avoid windows with flanges.
Yeah.
But you can very easily do a window with flanges onto the concrete block, get an inch of stucco, and then do another inch of banding around the thing, and you meet the
2 inches.
So I think 2 inches is not sufficient. On the other hand, I think 10 inches would be fantastic.
I'm not going there.
If you can do 10 inches.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think if we're going to be building buildings out of stucco, the idea of being able to show how deep the mass is really
Get a real shadow line.
And I mean, I don't know if you guys are all probably familiar with this, but you probably won't know which house I'm talking about. But when you drive north on Federal, where it turns into West Palm, becomes Olive, there's a really fantastic house right on the corner, it's a Mediterranean style house that has an exceptionally deep entry portico. It's got a big arch around the door, and I think it's got maybe even a curved window, but that really shows the thickness of the wall. The house is remarkable. It's got a little tower. It's a typical asymmetrical Mediterranean style house with a tower that pokes up on a corner. Nothing really is symmetrical to anything. It just kind of rotates around from that tower. And yeah, I mean, that's personally, I think that's, if we're going to be building a block, that's what we should be approaching all of it. Take advantage of the shadow for the windows, the heat gain and everything else. But that's a discussion for another time. Design guidelines, I guess.
Well, I'm willing to change my thinking away from the board and batten if you're going to do with those very deep windows.
That's what we do.
Could we go?
Number 10 and 11 are recommendations only, so whether you comply or not is not an issue here.
Yeah. Did you say that you wanted the stucco option only if costs became prohibitive on the other one, or just you'd like a flat out?
Yeah, that's right. The owner would prefer to do the actual cementitious applied siding. But if the cost of materials keep escalating the way they are right now, it may be that stucco is significantly less. There will be less labor involved in putting it on, and the material itself is going to be less. And from contractors I've talked to recently, it already is less.
Since this is not contributing, we could go ahead and make that part of the conditions, and that, you know, as a financial, you would have that option.
I mean, we could do it at staff level too. In other words, if it looks like it's going to go nutty, I can talk to.
Are we talking about item 7?
Yes.
Siding, yeah.
No, we're talking about 90.
No,
Item
it
eight.
actually, it's actually
Item
the,
8. She's committed to doing the cementitious lap siding.
number 8, actually.
Right, to make it somewhat appear like an older house.
So we would adjust number 8 to be unless, with leaving the option open for the stucco if costs spiral. Or,
You could just say, can utilize options A or B,
Or strike it.
or just strike it.
Strike item 8 completely.
Great.
Okay.
8's out.
And I have another tiny question, which is not an architectural one, but I noticed nicely that you're now asking for a 1 foot, certainly on the smaller lot size, a 1 foot for drainage. Is that why you've got the driveway? If you go back to this other plan, the driveway or the parking pads appear not to hit the alleyway.
I believe in this instance, this is just how Mr. Harris proposed it, but we
Is
have.
it? I think it's existing, right?
Well, it is to a certain
There is,
degree, but
yeah.
but I held it, because I already know the condition.
Yeah.
I went ahead and held it back 12.
We have been applying that to all projects now.
Which is good.
That was
idea.
actually a more recent LDR amendment. We had that practice and then it was codified, and so now we're putting that condition.
Okay.
It's never a good idea to build pavement all the way to the property line.
Yeah.
Because it can sheet flow off into the adjacent property owners.
So what's going to be in there? Just gravel or something?
Dirt.
Dirt.
Grass.
I assume they're going to pull in and pull out into the alleyway and not use that as a tandem parking.
Well, that's a good
spot.
point. Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, it is a tight squeeze bet in that.
I think the idea initially was just to use a ground cover, a low ground cover
Oh,
with
okay.
mulch.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So it's a tandem parking arrangement.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I know before you make your motion, you were talking about, there was discussion like if they went with the siding, then there was a deeper window that you were looking for set versus a board and batten. Did you want to include, did you all want to include that discussion of how the windows are would be? Please talk about this, you know what I'm saying?
Right now, it just, yeah, so you, on condition number 2, you can just put the recess or the windows shall be recessed. You're gonna have to differentiate, I guess, between the existing residence and the addition.
Mhm.
However you'd like to do that.
Well, I would suggest that it already says a detailed drawing illustrating the window trim and sill details should be submitted and reviewed.
Yeah.
As part of a permit application. So
You will
I think that covers
submit a
it.
drawing showing the tent
Yeah.
revealed. Okay, so that's done. So in terms of conditions of approval, 2 is all right. 8 is
Out.
out.
10 and 11 are.
10 are recommendations only.
We are actually using 2/2 on the smaller windows, which I know is anathema to what if it were really built that way, it's the wrong proportion, but I like the idea of those little ones having a little more detail.
Mhm. Someone want to make a motion?
Your turn.
Are we just taking out 8?
Yep.
Okay, I move to approve HRPB project number 21-001-00164 with staff recommendations of approval for certificate of appropriate COA for exterior alterations and an addition for the single-family residence located at 312 12th Avenue North, based upon the competent substantial evidence in the staff report and pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Beach land development regulation and historic preservation requirements, excluding condition number 8.
Can I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Pickett. Any additional discussion before we go to a vote? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay down there.
Yeah.
This one second. So this is going to be item D, HRPB 21-001-00163, which is a consideration of a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of a 187 square foot rear enclosed porch, the construction of a new 1,380 square foot addition, and a 783 square foot accessory structure and exterior alterations at 321 North L Street. The property owner here actually is Payne Development. And the property is located on the west side of North L between 3rd and 4th Avenue North. The property is located in the MF20 zoning district, but the parcel does not meet the width and area requirements in order to do two-family construction. So they are limited to a single family and customary and incidental accessory structures. A little bit of property history. There were originally 3 structures on this parcel, which was a single family residence up front, a rear garage apartment, and a utility room, all constructed in the 1920s. The garage apartment and utility room, again, to the rear of the structure, were demolished in the early 1990s due to unsafe conditions. But city permit records indicate the existing structure has had minor alterations over time, including roof replacements, mechanical upgrades, and some foundation repairs. But the structure retains the majority of its character-defining features and materials representative of the wood frame vernacular architectural style, and it has a high degree of the 7 aspects of historic integrity. These are just some photos. This is the front of the property. It does have that really neat kind of recessed porch feature. As you can see here, there was also a, it looks like a door and a window that were filled in over time. And this is the rear of the lot, showing that kind of rear enclosed porch. So this is the proposed site plan. And again, this parcel measures 37.5 by 50. As you can see in the site plan, the diagonal dashed portion is the existing structure. The vertical dashed portion is the rear porch that will be removed. And behind that is the proposed addition. And to the rear, you can see the new 2-story garage accessory structure. But everything so far, or everything is in compliance with the city zoning code, complies with all impermeable surface, building lot coverage, FAR, and setbacks. And the proposed parking for the site, they're required 2 spaces. One is accommodated by that perpendicular driveway, and then the other is in the garage.
Could you reiterate, please, the dimensions of the lot?
It's a 37.5 by 135.
Okay.
Lot and a half.
Lot and a half.
Sorry, Walt.
But these are the proposed plans. You can see down on the bottom right, that is the front elevation. The bottom left is going to be the rear elevation of the addition, and the top left is the rear elevation, including that accessory structure. These are the proposed north and south elevations. North is on the bottom and the south is on the top. You can see the addition kind of jumps to 2 stories there in the back. and two-story accessory structure. These are the existing and proposed, again, north and south elevations. And the architect here has added some of the surrounding properties or surrounding structures on the parcels to kind of give you some context. Both of the parcels, north and south, do have two-story rear accessory structures, so it's pretty compatible. The accessory structure is pretty compatible for the development pattern in the neighborhood. Here again is kind of more that conceptual or contextual study. And at the top, you can see an angled view with the addition and kind of what that is going to look like from the street. Here's north and, or excuse me, east and west rear elevations, again with that contextual study, showing the two-story buildings to the north and the south. And then some kind of aerial or bird's eye perspectives up at the top. All right, so the scope of the COA application again includes the replacement of the existing wood double hung windows with new aluminum impact single hung product with clear glass, which conform to the original opening sizes. As proposed, the rear enclosed porch will be demolished and replaced with a new two-story addition designed with facade elements borrowed from frame vernacular architecture. Additionally, a two-story, we've talked about that, a two-story rear garage with living space is proposed at the rear of the lot. So the applicable visual compatibility criteria in the historic preservation ordinance, those are going to be sections 23.5-4K1, which is our general criteria, and then 23.54K2, which provide additional criteria for additions and alterations. Those are outlined in pages 6 through 8. Staff has found that the window replacement proposal is compatible with the existing residence and have included standard conditions of approval in addressing window replacement. Staff has also found that the detailing and fenestration for the proposed addition and accessory structure are generally compatible with the style. Staff's primary area of concern is the two-story addition that will result in a substantial change to the visual massing of the building. The proposed addition will alter the historic design and arrangement of the building. The resource was designed as a modest, linear, single-story residence, as was typical for frame vernacular buildings throughout the 20s. And while there are two-story frame vernacular buildings within the districts, they were generally erected in simple box forms with side gable and hip gable roofs, unlike the broad roof line that is proposed. However, the addition's height and width are somewhat mitigated by the placement of the addition to the rear of the structure. And the fenestration on the front of the addition provides the appearance of a 1.5-story addition, with the projecting dormer situated low on the roof line, positioned over that secondary side entry. The board did review conceptual plans for this addition on April 14th, and the board expressed concerns regarding the overall massing of the addition and its pop-up appearance behind the historic structure. So those are staff's concerns are kind of echoing those. The design guidelines do provide recommended and not recommended ways to arrange massings for additions for historic properties. You can see that the schematic drawings on the slide. Compatible additions are generally placed to the rear, which minimizes visibility. Inappropriate additions and expansion, or an inappropriate example, shows a historic structure with a new second floor addition, and then a tall rear addition with a broad sloped roof. That's our kind of analysis that this addition kind of falls on the third example there, but a little bit higher. Again, staff's remaining concerns regard the height and the width of the proposed addition's roof line. The design is very broad when compared to the narrow width of the building. And although the addition is set to the rear of the structure, that two-story addition will be readily visible from the street. Regarding the proposed accessory structure, it is designed in a manner that, again, replicates many other two-story detached garages throughout the districts and in the neighborhood. We have included some additional conditions of approval to further increase the visual compatibility requirements for that. Again, that is just additional living space for the primary structure that would not be able to be rented out as an ADU or get a business license, anything like that. The last item It comes with the demolition of the rear enclosed porch. We saw a similar instance to this a couple months ago. But per Secretary of Interior Standard number 4, most properties change over time. Those changes that have acquired significance in their own right shall be maintained and preserved. We recommend that you all just at least discuss the back porch. It's not quite in the shape, in as good a shape as the last one that we saw, but it does seem to have been tacked on pretty early to the building. It was originally a screen porch, and it has seen some alterations over the years. So in conclusion, it is the analysis of staff that the addition and accessory structure are generally consistent with the historic preservation ordinance and our design guidelines. Should the board determine that the demolition of the rear porch is warranted for the construction of the addition and that the massing of the addition addressed compatibility concerns for the conceptual plan review, we are recommending approval with conditions. I can turn it over to Jeff, or we can kind of pop through the additions quickly, or conditions.
Let's go through the conditions, please.
Sure. So number 1, that would be staff reviewing the entry doors at permitting. Number 2 is that recess of a minimum of 2 inches. We can increase that or have further conversation on that. Item number 3 is the existing wood window trim, sills and mullions remain or be replaced in kind, matching in profile, or dimension and design. And that the addition or the addition and accessory structures window utilize a historically compatible trim and sill detail, replicating the elements on the existing building. Number 4, that's standard for our pair and triplet window configurations, that they use a 4-inch wide mullion. Number 5 is our divided light pattern, the raised triangular muttons. They're not proposing any here, but if they chose to go with any, we would like to have that condition just included. Number 6 is our glazing standard. Number 7 is the glazing standard for doors. Number 8, the post beam and railing details shall be constructed out of wood or a wood look material and shall be compatible, subject to staff review. Number 9, we are recommending a recessed garage door as we do in vernacular buildings. Number 10, the FAR on the project is detailed square footage calculations shall be submitted to indicate the project complies with the building lot coverage maximum and floor area ratio. That's just a double check at permitting. It is getting pretty close. The porches shall not be enclosed in the future as the project maximizes the allowable floor area ratio. Number 12, all improved surfaces shall be set back a minimum from minimum 1 foot from the property line, as we've discussed earlier. 13, 14, and 15 are our standard accessory structure conditions of approval, stating that that shall not be legally permitted as any kind of independent habitable living space, that it would not receive a utility meter and would not receive a city business license. Number 16, staff recommends additional fenestration be added to the north and south elevations of the rear garage structure. And additionally, the accessory structure could utilize a smooth stucco first floor and lap siding on the second floor. And I'll just kind of pop to a
Fenestration.
Number 16.
Oh,
right there.
I don't know. It's just
So
fictitious.
So what we were on that bottom, that is going to be the north elevation. I could use that first floor is just very blank. It could, again, it does butt up to another 2-story building, but it could use a couple of additional windows. Alternately to that, or in addition to that, that ground floor, that first floor of the accessory structure could use a different material such as stucco, just to kind of differentiate the facade treatment. So it's just not a very tall siding wall.
All right, that ends the staff report. Architect, have any additional comments?
Jeffrey B. Harris, architect. When we met with talk about this at the design review a while ago, we all discussed the idea that the addition was a little bit too high. So we've really made an attempt to lower it again by changing the plate heights, on the upper level and by actually stepping everything down into the addition. So when you leave the existing house and drop into the addition, you will step down one riser. Then we've built up from there. I think there's an 8'6" ceiling in the addition, floor structure, and then a 6-foot plate height in the addition. So we're able to lower it about roughly 12 inches. Also by putting the dormers, by letting the dormers sit down and by continuing the hips all around that way, we've snugged it down as much as we possibly can in general. I have no, or the owner and I have no problems with any of these conditions of approval. I would like to ask that I meet with staff for number 4 when we talk about the mullions and include the phrase staff review of permitting, because I believe that the dormers, especially, the dormers could be more delicate looking if we could adjust the widths of the structural mullions. I don't mind having them at all. I want them. I don't want to bang the windows together, but I don't think we necessarily need a 4-inch wide mullion in the dormers. So anyhow, I'd like to talk to staff about that when we work out the working drawings. The second one is the additional fenestration and the stucco. The owner actually really likes the idea of doing the garage, the base of the garage, making it a tripartite building. So we'd have a base, a middle, and a top. And I'm wondering actually if you're open to looking at that as a possibility for the addition as well. I mean, I know this is kind of at a late date. I don't want to continue this or hold up approval, but I like the idea of that. And I think it's a very appropriate way to look at this because it makes the addition stand out a little bit from the old house. And it also would allow us to do, in fact, what we talked about in the earlier project where we could set the windows more deeply in. Now, for the frame, ideally, it would be literally a tripart building where we'd have a massive base and then a wood framed middle and then the roof. Obviously, insurance companies are all over the idea of doing as much as they can in concrete blocks. So this, in order to meet the requirements and to keep the insurance costs as low as possible, has to be a 2-story block building. But having said that, it's an interesting idea to be able to make the base feel heavy and then make the upper level feel not quite so heavy. I mean, ideal if we could make the base, and I'm only throwing this out, we're not going to do this on this building, but if we built the base of 10-inch or 12-inch block rather than 8-inch block, then we could step it back at that skirt board location, something that looks more sort of real in that way. But anyhow, that's a thought I'd like you to discuss a little bit, is the idea of possibly introducing that into the addition as well. As far as the windows, I'd rather not, for security reasons, add another window at the garage level, especially in that sort of narrow area between the two-story buildings. And I believe that I would rather just do it stucco. We do have windows. We have 2 windows up above right now on the north elevation, which I think is appropriate for an accessory building. On the east elevation of the building, which I idiotically forgot to put in to this, we have a window. We have the carved-in deck to mirror the front porch, and we also have a single-hung window and then a pair of French doors and another single-hung window actually in the deck area. So I think there's a lot of fenestration up there. On the south side, again, I'd rather not do it because we do have portions of the garage that are exposed. They'll be exposed beyond the fence line. And I'd like to keep those secure. But that's really all I have to say, and I look forward to hearing your comments.
Okay, thank you. Comments from the board members?
I did hear you say that you have no problems with making the lower portion of the accessory structure stucco and then leaving the lap siding.
Exciting. Yeah.
Would you have the same window depth on the first and second floors?
No, I would set the windows back on that, again, to accent the fact that that's a massive holding up the upper level. I mean, like I said, I wish the insurance companies were so bent out of shape about doing stuff in concrete block, because everything has to be designed in the same hurricane limits.
But on your front elevation, that kitchen that is set back, that seems much better now than when I first saw it.
Oh.
But if you make that a heavier block stucco, visually, it's going to look more like an addition to the wood frame building in the front.
Right, no, I agree with that. I was thinking in terms of the idea that the addition is not the same as the front. In other words, it stands out slightly from the front building, which is in the national guidelines, I believe. But I'm just broaching that idea as a possibility. The owner and I were discussing it when we were talking about these conditions. And as I said, she really likes the idea of creating that base for the accessory building. So I just,
especially your number 4, I agree that if you have this bank of windows, you don't want to be constrained to a 4-inch spacing in between.
Yeah,
So I think number 4 could be revised.
What we really try to just stay away from is the very thin, like 1-inch steel mullions where the window frames actually wrap around them and it just looks like 2 windows sandwiched together.
Yeah.
That's what we really try.
yeah, and I totally agree with that approach.
Question, did you raise the height of the original house in order to make the addition look less intrusive?
No, the house already stands
I
up.
like it. I mean,
It's all out of the ground.
it looks good.
I agree. I think it looks fantastic. If I could say, it looks a little like CFA Voisey or Edgewood Lutyens. Or
I will tell you, I was gazing at Boise's houses when I was thinking about this house. That's where these eyebrow dormers came from.
Yeah.
The door,
Yeah, and I really appreciate that you've dropped that plate height down, and it's going to make a very nice master bedroom. I think that's the master.
It all goes very smoothly.
Thank you. Yeah, Boise's, I mean, he's unbelievable. His house is ridiculous.
Do we need to address the enclosed porch and Dean through either consensus, or does that need to be part of the motion?
I mean, it's part of the motion, so you need to at least discuss it.
The
Closed porch. What am I
a
missing?
final look at it. Can we get a real quick look at that?
Oh,
Is there any other?
I can't read this photograph. Is that a flat roof on that?
It's a very low slope.
You can see it kind of back.
That's where the kitchen is.
That's where the kitchen is.
But the hip does not go back there.
No,
No.
it's a very low
With
slope.
that other photo, it almost looks like, it looks like the hip goes back there.
Yeah, well,
It's
that's
right there.
Mhm. Okay.
Yeah,
There's a door to the left of the front door. Is that going to be reopened?
No, that's a current bedroom. That's gonna be filled in. However, where the shelves are there, will become a window.
Yeah.
Match the other windows.
It's kind of interesting, I suppose, in the original house, that front bedroom could be rented out
Yes.
separately.
Yeah, I think it was.
what are your plans on the lower portion of the chimney?
As far as what?
Is there going to be any, you're going to leave it pretty much like this because it looks, I don't know, beaten up a little bit, or?
Well, I'm sure it'll
Something
be cleaned up, but I think it'll just get another large coat of
Just
stucco.
stucco.
whatever color.
Smooth it out.
Yeah, I mean, I like it a lot, honestly. I like the way it tapers off when it gets up high, and then that metal stovepipe poking out of the top of it. It's
Something.
absolutely awesome.
Yeah. I have a little thought again, which is not part of our thing. We talked several months or a year ago about contrasting colors between the actual sash and the jambs and edge. It was kind of a thing in those days, and was a thing with Boise and
Right.
stuff. If you have a chance to do that, just put it in the back of mind.
That's unfortunately well, I don't know, maybe companies do that with extrusions.
As you were saying that companies are now beginning to allow.
Yeah, I think Assura is the most common. one that we
Assura?
see down here, ASSUR.
Okay, yeah, that would certainly be worth looking.
They have an incredible range of colors.
I mean, the idea though is that, well, they must, if they've got them, they're all extrusions, they don't fit on each other, so it's not.
That property on the undesignated side of College Park that you mentioned last week.
Yeah, I went by.
The frames are green.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're Assura.
oh boy, and I understood what you meant at the last
It
meeting.
almost.
Yeah, but the mirror glass just
like the The
I don't think
porch
I'm
steps
sure you have, I think they offer plenty of glass.
are an afterthought, not the steps themselves, but the wraparound portion of them.
You're talking about here?
Well, yeah, on
I'm sorry.
on the front picture,
Oh,
Right
yeah,
there.
right,
are you gonna maintain that thing where they wrap around like that, or are you going to make it two sets of steps?
I'm not really sure, honestly. I don't know. I mean, clearly it has to be restored in some way because it's falling apart.
Yeah, it's rotten.
All the wood's done. The one, I like the idea of the steps sort of tumbling down like this toward the approach.
Mhm.
I'm not so wild about it coming around because it implies that there's another entry coming this way. So I really don't know. I think they probably will go away on this side. Plus, we've got the new
Kitchen door.
kitchen there, so.
I just like to, I still have a little bit of an issue with, I agree with staff on the massing. If you look at the east elevation of the building, it seems like it's an entirely new house. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't really match the character. And don't get me wrong, the design from last time and this time, I think are really nice designs. But if we're looking at it as far as it being accessory and addition, it just seems like now that the original house is the front entry or the porch of the house. And I don't know, like when we were a month or two ago, when we were looking at another property, we brought up that issue with them and we talked about some solutions as far as how to set back and design to have the building more recessed, toward the back and everything. And I'm kind of feeling like we need to look at this under the same set of criteria. So I mean, I'm torn because I do like the design a lot, but
Well, I
I
would like,
think and when you look at the plan view of the building, it's kind of odd because with the addition, looking at the plan view, it's not that much bigger than the rest of the house. But when you look at it from street view, it looks like it's a substantial addition to the front area of the house.
I hear you. And when we had our preliminary talk a couple of months ago, it worried me.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see a lot more of this in the future as people with these 25-foot cottages
right.
get bigger families and want more space.
Right.
And certainly the one that you referred to was nicely done in the end. The addition, the two-story addition was way back and well done. I had my doubts about this, but I think he's done a great job of making it work.
I would like to point out that when you look at the house, that this particular elevation, that's an impossible view. I think we discussed it. You never see a house like that except in 2 dimensions on a piece of paper.
Right.
And if you go then to some of the perspectives, I think it reads a little better as far as no, but I mean, even that one is not exactly what you would be seeing. I thought there were some more that showed it from the other angles. But the other thing is that I would like to say that we really worked hard at, if you could go to the north elevation, or the south elevation for a second. Right here, we really worked hard to try to make the addition a piece that was as complementary as it possibly could be to the size of the house. We shrunk it down and made it much more narrow. Squeezed it down at the top and let the width of the thing be where the space was. So unfortunately, but that's the elevation that you'll see the most. In other words, from the street, that's because the guy who owns the property immediately to the south of it, he owns both those lots. So where that big vacant lot is, there's a pool there.
Right.
And because there's not a lot of landscaping there, this is the elevation that you'll see the most. So I think if you look at the perspectives of this elevation, you can see that it's a little more complementary than you might imagine, just looking at it strictly from the street.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it better there, for example. That's a tiny, you can't unfortunately blow it up, but
You don't see the addition popping out on both
No.
sides at one time.
no, you don't.
You're not.
Don't see that. That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, and I'm just also looking at the street view of the actual street view of the house and imagining that mass in behind it. And
But I worry we're going to have, the next one is going to come in and it's not going to be done as skillfully as this one.
Right.
And
I take the point.
I
And
think
this-
we might have a
wanna raise the
pop-up
issue.
workshop in our future.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Because, I mean, as property values continue to climb and these, people are wanting, larger and larger houses and wanting to move into Lake Worth, it's gonna be something that we see a lot.
I think the difficulty is gonna be on the 25 and the 33s like this one. You go 50, 75, and some of them on the 100, it's not, you have the
Your
room.
house, Aaron's house has that issue.
It's set all the way back. Mine
Yeah.
pop ups in the front.
Yeah.
All right, can we get some kind of a motion here?
Somebody is there,
Number 4, we want to,
meet with staff.
What is it? Just however it's worded for the other ones like that. Staff review of permitting, I think was the.
Yeah.
okay,
I move to approve HRPB project number 21-001-00163 with staff recommendations on conditions of approval for certificate of appropriateness for the exterior alterations and addition and the construction of a new accessory structure for the single-family residence located at 321 North L Street based upon the competent substantial evidence in the staff report pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Beach land development regulations and historic preservation requirements. In my motion, though, I'd like to also approve the demolition because it's not specified there, or is that part of the conditions? No, it isn't.
Oh,
But-
yeah, thank you, sir.
And approve the demolition of the
Rear enclosed.
existing
rear
enclosed
porch. I'll even call it dilapidated rear porch. And we deem that it's not historically significant to the structure.
Okay, that was the motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. And on that, Ms. Fox, I hope I haven't neglected you. Do you have more?
No, I'm here. I'm with you, man.
Okay.
He's with you, man.
All righty. Okay, no more discussion. All in favor, aye. Aye.
Hi.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
No, she just wants.
Okay.
All right, now we're going into 722 South
I
Lakeside.
would just like to say for this, that I would suggest that we have some sort of a future discussion
Yes,
generally on
got it.
how we're going to move forward with this.
Pop-ups. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, because I totally understand that the fact that there's a new demographic of people coming in, people want to expand and that type of thing, but we also need to take into consideration what the actual character of these cottage communities are. So I don't want to lose that either.
Good, very good point.
Good point.
I think to Bill's point
I'll be
is
right
in my
back.
situation, my house is set all the way to the rear. I tried. I did the full review with these guys. But that's another, maybe when we do the pops up, so
Yeah.
we can do, how do you do an addition or a secondary structure in the front when you have some of these homes that if you move them, you don't know if they're gonna make it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like.
We'll work on putting something together for this.
Good.
I think you're right. We're gonna start seeing this pretty frequently.
All right, we have the applicant online, I think, for 722 South Lakeside. Yes.
Hello.
So is your architect German?
Yes,
Really? All right.
I'm German, so that's why my architect is German.
Oh,
I
really?
couldn't get anybody here to actually do what I wanted to do, so that's why I chose to develop the project with a German architect, because it has some building features that we use commonly in Germany,
Mhm.
and that's why I went that route.
Wo stammen Sie aus?
Ich komme aus München.
Schön. What? Nothing.
Unfortunately, you didn't talk to me. Just kidding.
All right.
This is a great project.
Oh, this is what you're talking about?
All right, so moving on to this item, again, I'm Abraham Fogel, Preservation Planner, and our item is HRPB project number 21-00100129, the COA for the new construction of a plus or minus 4,435 square foot single family structure at 722 South Lakeside Drive. So the property owner again is requesting approval for a new single family residence. The subject property is a 50-foot wide platted lot of record located on the east side of South Lakeside Drive with frontage on the Intracoastal Waterway between 6th Avenue South and 8th Avenue South and Lakewood Beach. The NMT parcel is located in the single family residential zoning district and retains a future land use designation of single family residential as well. Here we have some photos of the vacant parcel. This one. Here we have from the other angle, facing the parcel as we come to South Lakeside Drive. So since this is a very long lot, the applicant has provided site plan and a couple of exhibits. This one, we see an overall view of how the site is laid out. This parcel is again well suited for this development as it is a single family residence in the single family residential future land use. And it will be a plus or minus 4,435 two-story single family structure. The floor plan provides a little bit more detailed information, particularly the setbacks. We have, however, included condition of approval that permitting will get a more comprehensive site plan with all of this information that's required for our review. So for our zoning analysis, the proposed new construction is consistent with all site data requirements. As one of the previous projects that we reviewed, there are a lot of semi-pervious materials being utilized. We included conditions of approval that any of those semi-pervious materials will have a percolation rate of at least 50% to be able to take advantage of that credit. And that in the front yard, we maintain 75% pervious and landscape. Using the semi-pervious material does not supersede that requirement. So here we have a preliminary landscape plan that was included in your packet. And again, this gets reviewed at permitting or compliance with the city's landscape regulations. On to the proposed elevations. The front facade of the two-story garage features a broad and simplified Flemish gable, casement windows with divided light patterns, and a projecting cantilevered balcony with a vertically seamed metal shed roof. Composite wood colonial shutters and copper gutters and downspouts are also used to add functional ornament and interest to the building. The front facade of the primary mass of the building also utilizes a pair of Flemish gables at either end with a broad gable roof connecting the two while creating a covered balcony on the second floor. And on this view, it's very helpful because as you're to the left, that's what you would view from South Lakeside Drive, and to the right, it's almost a cut, so you can see what the actual entrance to the residence would look like. An L-shaped plan is proposed. Again, we have a garage at the front that connects to that main mass of the structure. And with this proposal, the base flood elevation requirements had a great impact. And it was designed successfully so that front two-story garage mimics more closely the proportions of historic structures, since that garage level does not need to comply with DFD since it's not habitable space. Here we have additional views of the north elevation. Again, we can see that those casement windows with the divided light patterns will carry over, metal roof, and the compatible detailing for the Anglo-Caribbean design of the structure. Finally, we have the rear facade. Again, you can see the Flemish gables, the doors with the glazed doors with divided light patterns, and additional detailing. Here we have some renderings, which are very helpful, especially as I was mentioning that only at this angle you would really see that front door. So it's very helpful, this view to understand where the entrance to the main residence is. Here we have the first the proposed first floor plan. The next slide, we have the second floor plan. The applicant has provided a separate presentation, so I'll let him go through to explain kind of the layout and flow. Here we have the streetscape elevation. Again, it's helpful to understand compatibility with scale, height, and massing. As you can see, the abutting properties are very similar in height. The one to the left is 1 story, but it has a very tall roof that reads as 2 stories. And the property to the right has 2 stories, and it's compatible in height with that structure. All new construction within our historic district goes through our visual compatibility standards. We review for compliance with LGR section 23.5-4 K through A. Staff's analysis were provided on pages 6 to 9 of the staff report. Overall, the proposed building is consistent with the height of neighboring 2-story buildings flanking the property, and is in harmony with the height of other 2-story historic properties in the district. The building will utilize concrete block construction with a small stucco, vertically seamed metal roofs, which is typical for this architectural style. Each facade features a rhythm of solid voids with window and door openings that avoid long unbroken walls. The Flemish gable roofs are also consistent with this contemporary interpretation of Anglo-Caribbean architecture. So our design guidelines indicate that you can select to design new construction proposals that follow the defined styles in our historic districts, or you can also choose an alternate architectural style as long as you are consistent with that style, and that the best approach is to use one style and to design a structure that utilizes those common characteristics. We did include as part of your packet, Treasure Coast, who was the consultant for our design guidelines. We also created the guidelines for Judson Beach. And we, just as a sample, we included an excerpt of their regulations, which cover Anglo-Caribbean architecture. And again, it's our analysis that the features, massing, and design of this proposal are consistent with that architecture. In conclusion, the proposal is consistent with our LDRs as conditioned, and the design is consistent with the Anglo-Caribbean architectural style and the historic preservation design guidelines requirements pertaining to site considerations. Therefore, we recommend approval with conditions.
Thank you very much, staff. Does the applicant want to make additional comments or?
Yes, I just have to find out, would you run my presentation or should I do that and share it from here?
Yes.
So you're going to pull up the presentation?
Yes.
We're working on it.
Yes.
Give us a second.
Thank you. So first of all, I'm Nils Mueller. Thank you very much for allowing me to present my project here. I'm very excited to be moving out of the swamps in the west of Delray to Lake Worth. I think it's an exciting community. I think it's unique with the historical district, and it's one of the attractions that brought me there. I wanted to build a house that basically looks like it's been there for a long time. And at the same time, I found it really hard with some of the architectural styles because they turn kitschy with, you know, if you go with the Mediterranean style, it's very easy to go overboard and do it wrong. And so I came across this style. There's a lot of it being built and present already in Palm Beach. And there's I think it's a style that really fits well, and it's historic and consistent. The property to the left actually is a two-story. It just doesn't have any windows to Lakeside Drive, but there are two-story openings and French doors to the intercoastal. If you want to go to the next slide for me, please. The reason why I'm building it that way is because I'm obviously very concerned to move close to the intercoastal in an area where there's sea level rise and hurricanes. And I was very intrigued about using what's called insulated concrete forms and still make that work with a historical design. I also wanted to be very cognizant of energy efficiency, and I needed, on a 50-foot lot, I needed a two-story architecture because otherwise everything else would be paved over, and I didn't think that would do justice to the neighborhood because I have a family of 5. The challenge that I had with this project is that the new FEMA maps require me to go very far up above the existing structure. That's actually one of the challenges of anything on Lakeside Drive, because the traditional old structures are much, much lower and don't meet the current FEMA requirements. And so you have to build something that doesn't stick out like a sore thumb relative to the other ones. And I couldn't really use just pilings like it is here. So I found that, placing the garage towards Lakeside Drive and sort of make it ramp up really worked to hide that much, much higher height. At the same time, then I run into the height and setbacks challenges. And in order to do that, I actually couldn't use a typical roof here with trusses. So this has a cathedral structural roof. It's actually going to be made out of concrete. So the whole structure will be hopefully built so I can go without insurance in a Cat 5 hurricane. So we want to go to the next slide, please. So the challenges are that the neighbor's garage to the south is a two-story garage. It's literally encroaching my property. Their eaves hang onto my property. So I had to stay back towards the north with whatever I built there. And then obviously the zoning for VE/AE9 it's just my property's halfway in the VE zone, which requires us to be very high. And I'm doing this as an owner builder. So there's a little bit of a trial and error with this whole project. And so therefore I wanted to thank Mr. Ringel, and I wanted to thank Mr. Fogel and Mr. Hodges for all their input and help during the process to get to this point here. Next slide, please. So it's a very long 272-foot lot. Anything that was proposed to me by the local architects really looked almost like a chicken barn, single story with trusses on top and very, very long along the lot. And I didn't like that concept. I didn't think it would do justice to that. You can see the encroachment on the bottom here where the neighbor's garage is. So you need to make work with that as well. Next slide, please. So the solution for me to build was to use this Dutch or Anglo-Caribbean style, because I can use structural ridge beams. They're basically going to be supported in these parapet or Flemish gables, and they're going to carry that concrete roof and make that whole thing work. And that allowed me to bring the second floor height of the house down so it actually fits in with the neighborhood, and still, have the elevation on the bottom floor to be at least BFE. Actually, what we're trying to do is to go to BFE 12. That's how it's drawn right now. So literally the finished floor of the house is 12 foot above the sea level, and which is, the street level is 4.5 feet. Just to give you a perspective, it's 8 feet above the road. And I think it sort of hides everything in a good way. I didn't want to go with a huge garage, but I need some storage. So some of the storage actually will be hidden under the house because the house has to be elevated anyway. So I'm going to put that on pilings. That also helps with the hurricane. Next slide, please. We were inspired by obviously this traditional Anglo-Caribbean architecture. It personally appeals to me. It has some very clear lines, white stucco, these gables. I really like them very much. We took a lot of these design elements. If you want to go to the next slide. I like the protruding fireplaces. I like the scalloped front doors, and I like the protruding balcony. So we picked out those features and then incorporated it in the design that we have. Next slide, please. So this sort of shows you the massing. The house is connected to the garage through a breezeway to make it really one concept, one roof line, and hide that there's an elevated courtyard in between. And then there's a little open sitting area to the east. Next slide. And you really can't see that the house is so much higher because there's really only 2 steps above the courtyard and all the other steps are sort of next to the garage, and the garage steps are hidden by the exterior steps on the garage. So I think it works really well. The garage doesn't look too big. Garage doors are hidden from the street, which was something that I was trying to do, and I think it looks better. We think the contrast between the white stucco walls and the copper gutters and the dark windows and the dark balconies are going to look really well. The shutter color, I'm not totally sold on. I think, I actually like this kind of bluish Bahamian color. I think it fits well with that style. We're going to have an accent on the gables that you see there. It's a little vertical indentation, kind of where the structural ridge beam used to go in traditionally. The roofs will be standing seam. I found 1-inch panels that are rated to minus 167 PSF, so it's a Cat 5 Hurricane. And actually I need to build up the roof deck to support that level of stability. And the color, initially I wanted to do white, but I'm actually sort of intrigued by the mill finish. The problem is you can't really use a mill finish. Mill finish is Galvalume, and it's not warranted within 800 feet of water, salt water. So this would be a silver painted aluminum standing seam roof or a white one. That's really up to staff and I. Next slide. So this just kind of gives you some of the features that we're trying to achieve: the tall bottom windows, the shorter upper windows. The upper rooms actually have these interior white wood tongue and groove and visible rafter roof lines, because the sides of them are actually very, very narrow there. I think they're only like 7 feet tall on the side, and that gives it some height and some space. Next slide, please. We incorporated some features like the exterior steps. I think they really add a nice accent to it. The arches, that little fountain there, that'll give some light at night. And then these leader boxes over the gutters, I think they add a nice accent to it. So we're going to try to incorporate them wherever we can. Next slide. We're also going to have canted roofs. I don't know if I showed that. Just a couple more impressions. We really like the prominent front door with the sculpted arch and that sort of transition in the balcony. And it's actually very simple to build it out of insulated concrete forms, and it'll transition into these scalloped walls on the bottom of the doors that hide the steps. And it's going to be a double glass, I believe like 9 foot something door that basically incorporates the height and the bottom of the ground floor. Next slide. I think it fits well with the structures next to it. You've already shown that. I don't think it's imposing. It's obviously a narrow lot, and my neighbors were right on my lot, but I don't think it actually makes that look crowded. I think it's a very good solution for that. Next slide. And from the side, because you have such a long lot, it's very simple to have a house that looks, like uniform and like a long box. The first project that was first or second project that was presented today had that same challenge. I think by breaking it up into these different portions, and by having, for instance, that little staircase that goes up on the roof in the center of the house, I think that really helps make it more lively, look more historic and added on. And I think that's what I wanted to achieve. I want basically the house to look like it's been there forever. Next slide. We're going to be very mindful of the landscaping. There's going to be tropical landscaping in the front. There is one gumbo limbo tree that basically is right under my garage that has to go, and we'll replace it with appropriate planting. But we'll have permeable pavers with a salt finish, with grass, real grass separation. So that's kind of the look that we're trying to go for. I think that's the last slide. So I turn it over to discussion. Thank you for allowing me to present this.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll start with questions from board members. Why don't we start with Ms. Fonks?
Well, when I read through this, my big concern was the basement. I don't know how you do that when you're under sea level.
Well, actually, so the bottom floor of the storage area under the house is at the same level of the road. It's BFE 4.5. Because the house is at 12 feet, there is natural storage that most people just fill with sand and put stem walls. I just chose to basically leave it open and put stuff underneath it, but it's not habitable space. It's going to be concrete finish. It actually won't have a door. It'll be just an arched entryway so you can put stuff inside, but it's not habitable space. So it's basically a nicer version of pilings.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Other questions?
I do have a question about that. I think the basement is actually really nice. But I'm just wondering, does the building code require you to have knockouts or some kind of flood vents in that basement so water can move through it?
You have to have a certain flood opening, which I easily meet because I basically have a 16-foot arch in there to be able to park like a boat trailer underneath it or something, so I don't have it sitting around my property. And so basically I easily meet all those flooding requirements.
Right, I mean, I'm just wondering about the flood vents, how they might read in the elevations of the building. The building's beautiful. I mean, it's really, I mean, it's a very, very nice building. I'm just curious as to how those flood vents may be treated based on how nicely everything else is in here.
Yeah, so as long, Mr. Ringle's requirement was obviously that there is no space under grade, which we don't have. All of this storage structure is above grade or at grade. And so at that point, he felt that it meets his requirements and he recommended.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, it's great. I really, really like the gutters, leaders, and downspouts and the role that they play in the detail and the way the general elevation reads. I mean, they had such an incredible rhythm and level of detail to the building. It's really very beautiful.
Thank you.
I am wondering why you went with such a much shallower pitch for the gable dormers on the accessory building.
Can you go back to those? Can you go back to that presentation?
Yeah, she's trying, she's getting there.
So we really tried to basically keep the garage height as low as possible so that it wouldn't basically crowd out the house. And in order to do that, we needed, basically standing space in the dormers, so to say, because it really takes a large portion of the square footage to get to usable space. The side height where those walls are is 5 feet. So in order to do that, we basically used the flatter roofs to basically achieve that. And I felt it flowed well with the architecture. I actually thought that steeper roofs wouldn't necessarily work as well, but I'm open for discussion on that.
I was just curious about it. It's probably a case of yin and yang, by having those much shallower, the other gable ends look much more dramatic. They just look maybe a little bit shallow to me, but certainly having a low plate height, so I have no problem with that. I was just talking about that earlier. So, yeah, I mean,
Handsome.
that's the only question I have really.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions and comments, all minor, because I agree. Fabulous, wonderful, wonderful, beautifully done. Your shutters on the main house, they should match the window width if you can. It would be nice to have them operable, although it's not necessary.
They are intended to be operable. They won't be hurricane rated because we'll have impact windows, but they should be operable.
Yeah, I think your second floor shutters don't appear to be.
We actually, as part of my architect, he put them on, obviously, he said that the width of the panels matches that, so it should work.
Okay,
Okay, that's
great. Little thing here, code issue, is a stove permitted in that guest house?
So we did add some conditions of approval.
Oh, I
so
thought I missed.
that it's all connected, but just to make clear that cannot act as an independent unit.
Right.
Based on the amenities it has, we just decided to condition it to ensure that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So the design behind that is actually that, I mean, I plan to be in this house for a long time. My thinking behind having a separate structure is, number one, it would have made the house too massive to get enough rooms to fit all my children in. And number two, it allows me at a later date, if I should ever become decrepit and need help, to have a caregiver live there and take care of me while I'm living in the main house. That was sort of the rationale.
And I think what Jordan was trying to say is it is part of the same house, so we didn't technically put the kitchen restriction because you might have more than one kitchen.
It is true, it is connected, it is not actually an accessory building.
We've conditioned it so, it's not rented out, doesn't have a separate meter and things like that, but we did not put that it could not have.
Okay. I had the same issue on flood vents, and you say that you're using pilings and you're using insulated.
So the property soil testing supports just shallow foundations, but because FEMA in the VE zone recommends deep foundations, I'm actually thinking about putting auger-cast pilings in. I hit lime rock at 25 feet. And then basically from there on, we would build up with structural concrete columns that are filled in by block and have obviously openings that fit the flood openings. But basically it's a continuous line from the auger-cast piling. The steel will lap all the way up to the roof line across and back down.
Great. Okay. Elevator, I couldn't tell whether that actually went into the basement or not.
So at this point, the elevator is just vacant space. I actually don't plan to build it. I'm just going to basically make it closets that are there in case I can't get up anymore. Then, you know, but it's not going to go down right now. But theoretically, it could be built down. But there's no plan to do that right now.
Okay. I didn't see any drawings of the fencing around the front. Is that going to be part of?
So I would submit that the plan is to do a 4-foot masonry white stuccoed wall with higher 4.5-foot columns. I haven't decided on the scalloping whether it's too much or whether it actually fits well. And then the gate would be black. So
Okay. And my last issue is just a question of mine. As you entered this, you had a nice perspective, probably the top left there, or something a little larger than that, but it doesn't show if you're coming in the driveway, okay, there.
The wall.
It doesn't really show your sloped driveway going down on the right. And that seems a little pinched. I know you want to take your boats down that driveway and so on, but I'm wondering if you want something to close that, a gate or a hedge or something when you're not moving the boat back and forth.
So I'm open to that. Actually was going to put a pergola over that and have a bougainvillea grow over it, but I'm open to having a gate here as well.
Yeah, just so you don't have that pinched view down to the water and your neighbor's house as part of it.
Right.
Well, vielen Dank.
I've got a question about the roof. We've been kind of going back and forth on the colors of the roof and the metal and so forth. What is this roof?
Right. So you cannot use galvalume within 800 feet of salt water, otherwise it will not be warranted. So this has to be an aluminum standing seam roof, which basically means it can't come in a dedicated mill finish, because mill finish is basically the zinc of the galvalume. You can paint it silver, you can do it white. White has a better reflectivity, so the R value, so to say, is better than silver. Silver might actually be a nicer accent. I think white is almost too much white. I think it'd be white and white. So I think the silver probably is a nice accent, but not too much. It's still a very energy efficient roof. And basically it would be a silver painted aluminum roof that looks like galvalume, but isn't.
Is any of this in the specifications that we're seeing now, or is this just the beginning?
Well, we're just starting off, but the specification would be a 1-inch silver painted aluminum standing seam roof, nail strip standing seam roof.
We've included condition 10 that the roof will be white or no finish, and if the board would like to add that it would be have a silver finish. And then 11 is our standard condition that the ceiling will not exceed 1 inch of height.
I'd like to change white to take that. I'd like to change item 10 to remove white, because I agree. I think a white on a white building is not going to cut it. And if we're removing mill finish, shall I have a silver finish? Is that agreeable?
Yeah, owners on
Yep. To the applicant, you've looked at the 18 conditions, and do you have any problems with the
Could we
conditions?
kindly go over those one more time? I don't remember going over those in detail, but maybe we could just quickly go over them.
All right,
It'll just be a second, we'll switch over presentations.
Thank you.
Dortmund here.
Right, so number one is our standard conditions for the finish of the windows and doors, and that final design of the doors will be compatible with the Anglo-Caribbean architectural style, subject to staff review and permitting. Number two is our standard condition, having those mullions 4 to 6 inches wide. 3 is our standard condition for recess. I know you just mentioned 2 might not be enough, so if that one you would like to increase.
Our design calls for a deeper set window because these are 10-inch roof, 10-inch walls, insulated concrete form. They're going to be set a little bit slightly inside of the center, so we easily have, I think, 4 or 5 feet deeply set windows. I think it looks better.
Yeah, good.
All right. For standard condition regarding the mud that is used for divided light patterns, 5 and 6 are standard condition for glazing. Number 7, we are requesting a separate window and door schedule. So we have a little bit more information on the frames and glazing and all of that. Number 8, it's already proposed that way, but just a condition that it will have a smooth stucco exterior finish. Number 9 is just that at permitting, we will look at all the detailing in more detail at permitting. 10 and 11, as you mentioned, regarding the roof, and as you mentioned, number 10 will be changed to silver finish. Number 12, we will review the garage door design to ensure it's compatible with the style at permitting. 13, again, with these bigger projects, we've just been adding a condition of approval that will want a more detailed breakdown of the square footage to ensure it's within the maximums. 14, wanting to maintain at least 1 foot from our property lines as it relates to impermeable surfaces. 15, ensuring we have 75% of impervious and landscape in the front yard. 16, I had previously mentioned, relates to when we're looking at these pavers, ensuring they have a percolation rate of at least 50%. And 17 and 18 are, 17 pertains to not allowing that living space above the garage to be rented out separately to be a dwelling unit. And 18, I had mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we have the site plan information and a couple of exhibits. We'll just want to make sure at permitting we have one comprehensive plan with all the information.
100%. No, I don't have any problems with any of them.
May I ask one quick question of staff on this? Why are we limiting the metal standing seams on this particular roof to 1 inch?
So that has been a standard condition for metal roofs in residential structures for all our administrative cases. The ones that we brought forward to the board, we've also utilized that condition.
Right, I'm just wondering if that one size fits all approach is appropriate to this particular house, because this house is unlike any really that we have in our design guidelines. We imported the guidelines, which are great. I'm glad you did that. But I'm just saying that to me, that seems honestly kind of wimpy. I don't see why the seam isn't taller. And structurally, it's better too, if you can build it higher. So
Yeah, that you might be right. I kind of was thinking about that as well, because we typically don't allow vertically seamed metal roofs on masonry buildings. It's appropriate in this instance. And when we had looked at them in the past, anything over 1 inch started looking a little commercial. But just with the bulk of this building, you might be able to get away with it.
yeah, I think it would be, I mean, it may be moot. Maybe the owner doesn't want it taller than 1 inch, but I personally think a 1 inch standing seam would be great on this.
So when I went through the research of my roof, actually all of the high velocity rated roofs are 1.5 inch mechanically double seamed roofs. So I struggled a little bit, but actually I found a panel that if you glue it You can use a 1-inch nail strip version that is screwed directly through the nail strip into the roof decking. And that actually has the Harkin rating that I was looking for and is actually cheaper. So I'm gonna go with that.
Okay, that's what.
Big.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to,
Either
Strike
strike
the
it
condition.
or if you're comfortable.
Which
with the
number
range.
was that?
Let's strike 11.
11's gone,
11's gone, 10 is slightly changed,
silver.
and the other conditions appear to be acceptable. Does someone want to make a motion?
A quick comment, though, in one of your first images that you put up there, I think you showed the one standing house in, I guess it was Louisiana. No,
Yeah, Mexico Beach, Florida.
Mexico Beach, Florida, yes, that, and the significance of you showing that was because you're gonna emulate the structural, the pilings now so deep on that one as opposed to the rest of the pilings, or?
So the construction method is the same. It uses insulated concrete forms. Basically little pieces of styrofoam that are connected by a plastic web that you pour concrete through. So the whole wall is not just block, but it's a one continuous steel reinforced concrete structure that then transitions in multiple lifts into the roof. So literally there's concrete on the elevated floor above the storage structure. There is concrete on the roof. There's concrete on the sides. This thing's gonna be bulletproof. And I literally will not have insurance because of that, because insurance, I think in a couple of years, my insurance here just went up 25%. I think it's gonna be unaffordable. So I'd rather spend the money up front and build it right.
And did you take any, you took the structural from that particular structure that they did? I think the guy, one of the designers, I think is local here, or I was talking to somebody that said that they had something to do with the design of that particular building.
I'm not familiar with it. The company, actually, I struggled a little bit to find a builder that has experience with insulated concrete form. Mr. Ringel actually said that he's built part of a house addition that he did in ICF, and he's a fan of it, and he can only recommend it. So I think, there is some hesitancy here among the builders to go beyond block. If you wanted me to go for block and put inside metal studs and insulation on the inside, I think this is just a better concept.
Thank you. All right. Who wants to make the motion?
I will move to, sorry. I move to approve HRPB project number 21-00100129 with staff recommended conditions as amended. Is that okay?
Mhm.
The staff recommended conditions as amended for certificate of appropriateness for the new construction of a plus or minus 4,435 square foot single family residence at 722 South Lakeside Drive, based upon the competent substantial evidence in the staff report pursuant to the City of Lake Worth Beach land development regulations and historic preservation requirements.
Mr. Harris, those would include the conditions of striking the 1-inch metal seam and the other modifications as discussed.
That's right. Yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded.
Thank you very much.
Guthrie,
Thank you.
and
It'll be a welcome addition to the South.
we haven't voted yet.
Yeah.
All in favor, aye.
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 Nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Please tell your architect that I appreciate that street elevation that makes the adjacent houses look Teutonic as well. I don't know if you heard
I have nothing
that.
to do with that.
I know, but I'm saying your architect did. It looks they look nice.
Yeah.
Also, I noticed he had all Fritz Hansen furniture illustrated in the sections. It looked like.
That's whatever's in the AutoCAD library. So.
Oh, okay. All right. All right.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
We're all going.
Oh,
This is where we're all evacuating to. The whole board.
No kidding. Let's hope the wine cellar is fully stocked.
The Lake Worth.
Fully stocked and below water, so we have to bring it upstairs.
No, I never thought I'd say I want to evacuate to the intercoastal. All right.
all righty. Our next item has been deferred. Is that correct?
Not this one. the other next item.
This is 326.
This is
Yeah.
item F. Yeah.
Oh, this is item F, which.
Home stretch, Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
Two
okay.
more items, this one and the next.
Right.
I will go ahead and say, I'm sure you all looked through the packet, you've read this one. It is an application for an unreasonable economic hardship. The applicant isn't with us this evening. I thought that they would be. If you all feel comfortable proceeding with this application without the applicant here, I'll go ahead and do that, but. I feel
Has she
like-
been here before and asked for this roof or this another street?
I move to
Okay.
continue this item until the next board meeting in July.
I mean, that's just, I mean, if you all want to move forward with it, we can certainly do that, but if you all have, I mean, that's a.
I have a lot of
kind
questions.
Personal application, so if you have questions.
Is her roof leaking right at the moment with all this rain?
I've not been made aware of that, no.
Okay. I didn't know if it was.
You've not been aware that
She's not told me that.
she's not told you that she
I
has.
got the impression from reading the report
That a continuance.
Well, we have a motion. I'll make a second so you guys could keep talking.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second
All right.
to continue this to the July
Okay,
meeting.
and then so open up the discussion on the reason I'd like to continue is because I did have an awful lot of questions about this and I think that the applicant should probably be here. I mean, we could all discuss this amongst ourselves, but it's a financial hardship and it's a rental property. So,
Yeah, that's,
you know.
Yeah, I was like going, excuse me, I had to read it twice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and that's why I would rather give the applicant one more opportunity to be present and answer some questions. So that's why I motion that.
mhm.
I agree.
Okay, then we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the continuance, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
This is a very controversial one.
So this next item, I apologize, we're doing web stuff. So the next item is consideration of ordinance 21-10. Mr. Chairman, are you okay if we proceed with this next item? I don't want to get ahead of you.
Yes,
Okay, it's consideration of an ordinance to chapter 23 land development regulations regarding changes to the floodplain management standards for manufactured homes as required by FEMA. So basically, Florida's Department of Emergency Management's Floodplain Management Office contacted Peter Ringel, who is our building official, as well as our floodplain administrator. He was emailed because we are a local government that participates in FEMA's community rating system. And we talked a little bit about this before when we talked about the historic district designation and the base flood elevation. About the community rating system. And essentially the community rating system is an evaluation process, and the local government participates in a variety of activities. And some of those activities include having land development regulations that are consistent with model floodplain requirements for the state for construction within a floodplain. And so basically, last year, FEMA announced a new prerequisite requirements to obtain or retain a CRS class 8 rating or lower. So basically, the higher your rating is in CRS, it's not like in elementary school where if you get 100%, that's good, right? If you get a 9, that's bad. You want to go for the lowest number you can. And so right now, our CRS class rating is a 7, which this entitles to our residents who own property or within the floodplain to a 15% reduction in their federal flood insurance rate. If we don't adopt these requirements, everyone would get a discount of 5% immediately. It's an automatic, do not pass go, do not get your 15% discount. So it just so happens, it's a little weird because we don't have any manufactured homes that are in the floodplain.
But it's just a requirement.
but it's a threshold requirement. It's a prerequisite before
So
you
we
even
just need to
apply.
change that.
This is what you have to do. So it's not gonna impact any of our existing manufactured homes or mobile home parks. They will continue to exist as it is. And then further, this would only impact new mobile homes or the installation of new septic systems, even if we had any floodplain, which we don't. So then we are not anticipating any impacts within the cities at all. And because all of those uses are located outside our special flood hazard. Staff is recommending approval on this item, and that concludes my presentation.
Are there any,
You have a CRS rating.
is there any
Sherry.
definition for mobile homes that somehow includes pre-manufactured housing?
Does include that.
So the
This
mobile
does include it?
home definition, I'll pull it up in the ordinance. Well, there's no really mobile homes anymore.
Right, it's all manufactured.
It's all manufactured homes.
Includes mobile.
Yes.
Aaron, does the floodplain go on the other side of 95? Because there's mobile homes over there.
No, the floodplain doesn't pass federal highway. The special.
Will it with the new regulations?
Yes, the new regulations expanded, it was closer to the intercoastal, and then it expanded a little bit farther west, but not
But
past,
not there, okay.
but not beyond federal highway. It's basically.
East of Federal.
East of federal is what you want to think about it. So if you think of east of federal, we don't have any mobile homes east of federal, right? So
Right.
it's, it's really easy to think about that.
So any newly installed prefab houses would have to comply with the base flood elevation anyway. Right?
And, in other words, the closest,
How do you make
closest
this
that I know of any manufactured house was probably over on L Street that the shop class and that we approved, we moved over. No,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
something.
No, it was actually on F Street. It's a manufactured home, it was prefab.
Right.
Class, and they actually moved it in there. So I mean, it could happen. Technically, it could happen. Manufactured homes are
Well, there's a difference between like a manufactured home, like a mobile home, and then there's a prefabricated
Fabricated.
home,
Factory
which
built
meets the Florida building code.
Good.
And it's so like, so there's different definitions in the statute, and unfortunately, I wasn't prepared for this depth of conversation on this, so.
No, we have to approve it.
I mean, it's-
Like when you pull them out, like, this is what this is, and it's all defined in the statute. So basically, the equivalent of a trailer, the modern
Right,
equivalent of a
right.
trailer is like, your single wide, double wide, that kind of thing, that general genre of building. So, but there are homes which are kind of more prefabricated but they all meet, you install them on a foundation.
Right, that's
Right.
I think
That's,
it's, I
that's
think
a
that's a good
different
point also.
kind of thing,
That's gotta be-
and that's just that's like, you would have to elevate that too. Anything in the
Well-
floodplain now, if you're in the floodplain, you can't, the idea is FEMA doesn't want to give you money when you flood. So you need to move your house, whatever house that is,
Move it.
any type of house, all the houses have to come up.
This is essentially just an academic exercise.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I hear a motion?
Yeah.
I move to recommend to the city commission to adopt the proposed LVR text amendments included in the PZB HRPB 21-004 0000002 ordinance 2021-10.
Can I hear a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Dorinzo. All in favor, aye.
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 Motion passes unanimously. All right, folks, are we into department reports?
Reporting.
I don't
We're
want to
good.
say anything.
We're hanging tight. We're tough.
We're ready. Just go all good.
So we're-
No planning issues, any comments?
We'll talk at it.
So the only planning issue or issue related to yours is the item that you made the recommendation of denial on related to the resolution with the
Clear.
BLT standard.
the BLT standard. That item was continued at the meeting last night because there was a lot on the agenda, so it's running long.
very close to midnight as I,
Yeah,
Exactly tonight.
I couldn't.
Do we have any idea how the commission is leaning on the issue?
Well, since they directed us to do it, we're gonna probably go with that, they're gonna approve it.
Really?
We don't know.
No one's contacted me. I haven't talked to anybody about it. It was kind of interesting because at the meeting, when we knew we were gonna run out of time, they kind of looked at it and said, oh, well, we can bump that one. So it must not be very pressing, but they did direct us to do it.
and I did submit a written comment to be read in the record as a board member.
Oh, good.
So,
I spoke to commission about it yesterday.
I will
I
say
think
that-
it's very important we adhere to our guidelines and set forth by the, National Park, blah, 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 in the state of Florida. Why we're here.
Yeah,
Well, I think it's important that we, especially if there's other implications on what Interior is gonna come back and say and that type of thing, that's the whole point of it, so.
okay. Ms. Fox, any comments, any items?
I think.
All right.
That was perfect. Summed it up.
Any other board member comments? In that case, let's